Hi mate, how are you doing? All right. You know, he's opened a bar of chocolate, so he's getting that out of the way.
It's M&S.
It's M&S chocolate.
I've never had it before.
And it's big and chunky as well. What is it? Just ordinary milk chocolate?
Ordinary milk chocolate.
Well, let him get it out of his system in the pre-show show.
180 grams worth of it.
Oh,
which is about 3 chocolate bars worth.
Right, well that's even better, isn't it?
Was it 4?
But for a diabetic, it's like throwing cocaine in front of an addict. Well, hey ho. So
the ironic thing is that your wife was the dealer here.
I know, yeah. Well, it's annoying. It's even worse. But I think what she's trying to do is she's trying to get rid of the backlog of chocolate that she knows I can't eat.
Which she knows I can.
Certainly the Christmas chocolate, which is still floating about. Is it still like that in your house? Or no,
No. We jettisoned most of ours. First week in January, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, with this sort of primary aim of, well, if I eat it now, I'll go on the straight and narrow and start dieting and looking after myself.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's one.
Doesn't work at all. Anyway, listen, just a big shout out as I've been doing often now to the Mecca Bingo in St Helens.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, I told you the story, didn't I, about Darren, who's one of the callers there, turning around and saying that he tuned in, but I think he only listens to the pre-show because he's not really interested in football. He's more into rugby,
which is fair.
And he commented on the fact that I have a very soothing tone, a very relaxing tone. So we were talking about it the other week. So I want to give a shout out to Adam, who's a regular listener and a big Everton fan, and also Vicky, who's the manageress there. They all tune in. They've all been listening at some stage to listen to a part of the show.
See, I keep thinking that nobody listens to this, and we're just two idiots who just record it for their own joy.
I think you've got part right there. There's definitely two idiots.
We're two idiots.
Big shout out to them. Listen, spend a lot of time at the Mecca in St Helens, and I do say it's very therapeutic for me going to the bingo. It definitely is, without a shadow of doubt. And I've started to win a little bit more than a fiver. And my calculations, I don't know how I got them wrong, but so anyway, I've shouted for a fiver, and
Frank.
Darren the caller laughs and says, "Oh, right, there's 3 of you sharing." So I mentioned about I have palpitations for a fiver. Well, 3 of us were sharing it, and I think I said 133 each, and there's 167. Isn't it? I don't know how I got my mathematics wrong. I'm normally really good at that, so just throw that back out there to make sure that people don't think I'm completely thick.
The funny thing is you used to be self-employed. Did you not manage your own books? Up to a point. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's even more remarkable the fact that I get my calculations wrong.
Yes.
But listen, another shout out for Darren, because he's known as, I think it's what is he called?
He's not called the Dale Winton of Mecca Bingo.
Listen, he's a singer-songwriter.
Is he?
Yeah, he was in a band for years, and his band had played on actually on stage in the Mecca.
Really?
Yeah, but believe it or not. So I'm just going on to... So if you go onto TikTok, I think it's something... Guitar Daddy or something like that, I think he's called.
That's a very...
Did I just play some music then?
You did.
Did I? I do apologise for that.
We have to pay for licensing for that now.
Yeah, Guitar Daddy's called. So if you get the chance to go on TikTok and look at some of his work, including the song that he wrote for his wife, then tune into TikTok and Guitar Dad. Very, very talented guitarist.
I don't have TikTok. If he's on YouTube, though, that's a bit more my generation.
Yeah, well, you might have to look there, but... Yeah.
I will do that.
What's been going on with you?
Well, I've been quite interested in what's been going on over at Man United at the minute. Now, normally we don't bring Premier League football into this because, elitism and money and, non-league football is amazing. But I'm interested to get your take on what it is when former players and big names associated with clubs like that get involved and have their own opinions which seem to overhang the actual running of the club. So Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes I'm singling out particularly for their criticism of Lisandro Martinez, who then had a really good game in the Manchester derby. And, sort of answered his critics there. But there's kind of a bit of a debate about whether the ex-pros are just being, pundits, or whether they're actually affecting how the club is run. What's your take?
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we know Nicky Button, Scholes and Gary Neville absolutely love Manchester United Football Club.
Yep.
Spent a lot of their life, their younger lives at the football club as well. So I think it's a difficult one. Sometimes when you're a pundit, I mean, a little bit with the podcast as well, sometimes you have to throw a little bit of controversy in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you don't want to affect the outcome of something, you have to raise the question, like we do quite regularly about City of Liverpool and the running of City of Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then if you go further back to Farsley Celtic and even Macclesfield, on a sort of slightly bigger scale. Not Macclesfield, I was thinking more Morecambe Football Club and the problems that they've got there, and that's even more elevated at the moment. But so you have to bring these points up, and as a pundit, I suppose it's quite boring if you just come out with the same things all the time and say nice things about Manchester United. There's a lot of bad things to be said about Manchester United at the moment. So in terms of what they're doing and how they affect the football club, I think if Manchester United were firing on all cylinders, then all the superlatives would be getting thrown out. We'd hear nothing but, good stuff about Manchester United and the current interim manager. What's his name? Carrick, is
Michael Carrick, yeah.
Michael Carrick, and everybody's saying that. Well, give him the job. They were all saying the same thing about the interim manager at Bury, and yet they've had 3 draws, which we'll talk about later, and sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So in terms of your question was,
is it
do they have the right to say what they're saying or not? Well, if it's factual, yes. Opinions about players and whether they fit into that Manchester United role. Sometimes we get it wrong about players, don't we? And we think they're not great, and then they turn out to be fabulous.
This is correct. Yeah.
I think when Lukaku first came to Everton, he wasn't particularly as productive as he was when we actually bought him.
You got him on loan from West Brom, didn't you?
I think he was at Chelsea, and he went to West Brom, and then he came back to Chelsea, and then came to Everton.
Right, okay.
I think, and then the second time, I think we actually bought him from Chelsea. So a lot of players sometimes flatter to deceive, and they're on ridiculous money, and they don't deserve it. But listen to that old conversation about whether a player goes out to play bad, and I think I don't know any player unless he's really, really. What was the one? Who was the fella that wore the wrong kind of boots, and he went to the sideline? So Alex Ferguson told him before the game, wear such and such a boots blades or whatever it was, and he didn't. And
Diego Forlan.
So he slipped his first contact with the ball, and he slipped and he missed an open goal or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. Then he went over to the byline to go and pick them up, and Alex Ferguson picked them, threw them to where he couldn't get them, and he told him, "You carry on in the boots that you're playing in," and he never played for Manchester United ever again. So if your face doesn't fit, if your attitude's not right, then you should be commented on. They're good at critique. They know what they're talking about. So you have to bow to their superior knowledge. But why? What's been said about Nicky Button and Paul Scholes?
It's mainly the fact that what they're saying is actually unhelpful in the grand scheme of what Manchester United are trying to do, which is, to kind of come back from the brink again. I
mean, they're not doing particularly bad, are they?
Oh God, no.
They're back up to 4th now.
They're back up to 4th. Obviously, beaten Arsenal away from home, which was an amazing result and a thoroughly enjoyable game. And then beat City in the derby as well.
I mean, is that purely down to, going back to basics and, the shape that Manchester United are more accustomed to playing Or I mean, do you feel sorry for Amarin now? Amarin and think, well, why didn't you perform for him?
Amarin's own arrogance was his undoing, and his refusal to move away from a 3-4-3 formation, even after he knew it was obvious that it wasn't working. The fact that he'd had these players in for months at a time and they hadn't got to grips with the system. He was still on the end of really poor results. He'd obviously spoken about how Manchester United's current squad was the worst in its history, and that there will be days of suffering before it will get better. Things that are very much attuned to what a journalist wants to hear. And
well, we've gone through those roller coasters as custodians of Skelmersdale United Football Club. We've gone through those last season as well as this season, where we felt as though there was a marked improvement, but in that interim period where things have been going really wrong, we've been hypercritical of not so much management, maybe tactics or personnel, the people that are involved not playing to the full potential.
Yeah.
But then, like we witnessed before Christmas and after Christmas, a win, both before and after, and then our opinion changes and we think, well, we're not a million miles away from success. But then, a couple of defeats again and a heavy one at that, and then you start looking at it and evaluating it in a totally different light altogether. And I think we're all we can all fall into that trap of being hypercritical.
I think
overcritical, should have used the word overcritical, because we see things going back to normal again. But like I say, have you ever seen a team of players go out to perform, not to win? I don't think there's anybody there that would ever do that. I think Neville Southall, when he sat in on his goal line at half time many moons ago, when he was making a protest, then that didn't stop him from putting in a world class performance. He gave everything to Everton, and was still capable of making his own little protest. I can't remember what it was about now, but somebody remind me about that. But it's very difficult, isn't it, when you've been involved with the football club and then to become a pundit and talk about your old football club. That's going to be horrible. I mean, Jamie Carragher now and Steven Gerrard, they're very critical of Liverpool at times, and they seem to have given an awful lot of leeway towards Slot at the moment, and saying that sacking him is not the right thing to do.
To be fair, he's won him a title.
But that will change. That narrative will change. Their conversation will change the longer they stop performing. I know they had a fantastic win in the Champions League.
Yes, they did.
Was it 5-0? Was it 6-0 in the end? Yeah, 6-0.
Qarabag were awful though, and they're absolute minnows of the Champions League. With the greatest of respect, you would have expected Liverpool to win that game.
But I think it might have been you last week, or we might have had that conversation where we've talked about Liverpool know how to play European football. They're just really, really struggling to play Premier League football at the moment.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a good assertion. Generally speaking, players can and do have the right to an opinion to critique their old.
What do you think of Roy Keane's critique? Because he's still not. I sometimes think that the play acting, the pair Keane and Ferguson, are play acting this love-hate relationship behind closed doors. I bet you they're enjoying a nice bottle of red between them.
They're still on the phone to each other and sending Christmas cards.
Yeah. I'd like to think so.
You would like to think so, and in fact, I think there's a movie just come out about Roy Keane and...
It's not beer, by the way, that's orange.
That's beer? No, it's not. That's Diet Coke without the caffeine, because I just made of caffeine anyway.
Yeah. He's like a Duracell bunny. So go on, what we were on. Keane is... He's a great pundit, by the way.
Oh, he's a brilliant pundit. I think he's arguably one of the best that there is at the minute. For me, I think he reflects his punditry the exact same way as how he was as a manager and as a player. The standards have to be there. The work rate has to be there. He has to be there. Has to be full on commitment all the way from start to finish in order to earn his plaudits. Very rare to earn his plaudits, but United on Sunday against Arsenal, they absolutely did. And I think if you look at it from that angle, you kind of look at Keane as being a bit more of a decent perspective as a pundit who can say the right things, not the right things, but the positive things occasionally, and not kind of just full-throated gung-ho criticism.
It doesn't appear that he's doing it for headlines. He's just being as honest as he was on the pitch, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. And how he has been for, what now, about 30 years nearly. There's a movie actually out about him and Mick McCarthy, and you know that whole fallout that they had at the World Cup.
Yeah, I read a small part of that today, I think. They'd actually shook hands before all the cameras watched it. They'd already made peace with each other.
Near enough, yeah. But that wasn't enough for the cameras, and so Roy Keane just exercised his dog to no ends every single day. It must have taken him out for about a 3-4 mile walk. He was a retriever as well.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say about Roy Keane, because you mentioned him there, because he is a stickler for rules and regulations and what have you. He's on that overlap with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher and Ian Wright. Fabulous. I love watching it. And they were actually recording once when Roy Keane's phone went off.
It was his dad, wasn't it?
I don't know. He didn't tell you at the time.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't think he told you at the time when they're actually on the show. But he was really, really embarrassed because he hates people being late, and he hates phones going off. But his own phone went off, so even the great Roy Keane isn't perfect.
Well, he was never perfect, was he? No. The amount of times he got sent off in games where United could have really done with him. Yeah, it probably says a lot about his full-throated, all combat, mantra on the pitch. If you like. Yeah.
Listen, I've forgotten to mention, by the way, Matty, who's also part of the Mecca bingo team as well. Him and Darren together, they are the double act that everybody wants to see. So I'm a stickler for when I go out. So sometimes I'm a little bit disloyal and I end up going to the Club 3000 in Wigan, and it's extremely boring. It's just bingo, and it's, shh all the time. Whereas if you go to the Mecca, and I'm selling it here. I'm selling bingo for everyone. But if you go to the Mecca in St Helens and you listen to both Darren and Matty perform, they're a double act. It doesn't matter if you go into the bingo and lose. That's what I'm saying. You go in there to be entertained as well.
Right.
I'm old school. I like to be entertained. Anyway, listen, I'll put that to one side and just talk briefly about me back. I mentioned it to you briefly before. So this is purely for anybody that's got back issues and don't take them as serious as they should. So I've already had an operation on my back before. I've had 2 discs taken out and I've had it replaced. They've grafted a cage in, and I've had problems with my back for donkey's years now, and they've got worse. I had the operation probably over 10 years ago. I went to see a physiotherapist a few weeks ago, and she said to me, it sounds like could be possibly that the cage has come loose. That's one of the things it could be, and it really needs to be investigated, so you need to go for an MRI scan. So I've been struggling with pain now for years and putting it off and off and off and off, and then it's getting to a crescendo, the pain, it's getting worse, and eventually I decided, like I say, to go and see the physiotherapist. Followed that up with a MRI scan, which it had 2 weeks ago today up at Whiston Hospital. And I got 4 missed calls off my physiotherapist on Wednesday, I think it was. Tuesday afternoon, and I thought, oh yes, something's wrong here. So the results of my MRI scan are that my C3 and C4 discs are bulging out and touching my spinal cord.
Oh, Jesus.
And of course, the worst case scenario is that if it gets any worse, it could end up with paralysis, which nobody wants. And I know a lot of people take back pain for granted, and what I'm basically saying is, listen, you never know what it could lead to. So always get the option to go and see a physiotherapist first and foremost, but never underestimate the pain. Don't, when I say underestimate, when you're relaying your sort of symptoms to a physiotherapist, don't pretend it's less than it actually is. because it could be something far more serious. So now I'm underweight. I'm waiting now for an emergency appointment with the spinal team at Walton. So yeah, a little bit worrying. Like, I mean, I can carry on walking, but my days of fighting, shouting and screaming, or weightlifting and all that. And it's funny, really, because I was feeling, I said, didn't I, recently, since they changed my medication, I was feeling a little bit of a spring in my step and thinking to myself, well, listen, I can go back to the gym properly now. I use my treadmill here in the house, and I started running again, which I was told I shouldn't do anyway. I'm not going to do that anymore. But I was going to go back to the gym and start doing weights again. So really, really fortunate that I did go get this sorted out. So yeah, listen, don't suffer in silence and pain. Get it sorted out, because back problems can lead to really, really serious problems. So
there you go.
Ram that home to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Show? Yeah, listen, we better get on with the show, because these pre-show shows are getting bigger.
Yeah, getting longer and longer, aren't they?
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer, AJ Vigette. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. This is Series 2, Episode 27. And alongside me today is my co-host, AJ.
Alongside you today. Alongside you every day. I think there's only been 3 episodes that I've missed since we started doing this. Anyway, hello, Frank. Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Again, we continue to fly the flag for non-league football until such a time as we are told we're not good enough. But until then, we'll go. Now then, on today's show, we will do our standard North West Counties Football League roundup, including some decent results for Little and Remica. We will check in across the Northern Premier League as well, at Prescot Cables, Lower Breck, Bury, Clitheroe, etc. We'll go to have a look at Southport and Marine in the National League. The FA Trophy is on us once again, so we will have a look at fixtures concerning both Marine and Southport. Controversial corner, very little on there, but we'll have a little looky-loo and see what we can drum up from there. Any discussions or talking points. Our guest today is Trevor Abraham, or one half of the chairmanship of Colne FC. He'll be on the show in part 2. And then in part 3, it will be our usual fixtures and predictions, and all focus on Skelmersdale United.
So yeah, listen, we'll start it with the North West Counties roundup as usual, and take a look at Wythenshawe. So after reporting that Wythenshawe had 12 consecutive league wins, they reached 13 with a 3-0 victory over Charnock Richard on Saturday. However, a 2-0 defeat at Stockport Town ended that magnificent run midweek. So that said, they're still top of the league with an 8-point cushion. Second placed Padiham were defeated by Glossop North End 3-1 on Saturday.
I didn't anticipate that defeat for Padiham. In all honesty, I didn't really anticipate that defeat for Wythenshawe. But it probably says more about Stockport Town than anything else, because they took points away from... who was it last week that they played, and there was somebody up towards the top end of the table. It might have been Rami, who they played and beat last week. So Stockport Town, you can't write them off for anything at this point. Nonetheless, Wythenshawe do still have a healthy 8-point cushion over Padiham. So you should imagine that they are a bit more in the driving seat for the Premier Division title and promotion back to the Northern Premier League West. But what this does mean is that there's a bit more of a mixer around the teams that may make the playoffs. So you've got Padiham in second on 62 points, Ramsbottom in third on 60, Burscough are in fourth on 58.
We'll talk about Burscough in a minute.
And West Didsbury and Chorlton on 58 as well. And then you've got the chasing pack of Earlham and St Helens, both on 54 points, and Chadderton on 51, and even Atherton are on 50. So reasonably, anywhere between second and ninth could end up in the playoffs before the end of the season.
Well, and looking at some of the shock results there, you just talked about Ramsbottom there. They managed to get a small victory over City of Liverpool, which was a little bit of a shock. They only squeezed a 1-0 victory over them, which keeps them firmly in that chasing pack there with 2 games in hand now. Ramsbottom, if they were to win their games in hand, they would only be 4 points behind the current leaders. So it looked a little bit sort of grim for Ramsbottom at one stage, but now with obviously in different results there at the top, which we weren't expecting. It's managed to close that gap a little bit.
Yeah, they've kind of ridden out the storm a little bit. So they opened the scoring against City of Liverpool after 14 seconds. Matt Dudley scoring the opening goal, and we kind of thought that would open the floodgates for him. A little bit, particularly given City of Liverpool's difficulties defensively. But no, apparently City of Liverpool made a really decent account of themselves and held on against Ramsbottom side. And after last week's really unfortunate result against FC St Helens, when they conceded the goal in the 95th minute, they now conceded the goal in after 14 seconds. So they've gone from one extreme to the other. And we thought that kind of might be a bit of a turning point for City of Liverpool in the, what would you call it, the Renters' Derby, if you like, when they hosted Burscough.
But now, of course, Burscough have gone 7 games unbeaten. They matched that lucky number with a 7-1 win over City of Liverpool, as you say, 2 marginal defeats after that big 9-0 defeat against Chadderton. Things look to be on the improving a little bit for City of Liverpool, but no, at the sort of home venue, at the away game, Alex Priestley got them off to a dream start with a goal, but it was Burscough's game, really. They were always in charge of it. If you listen to Dempsey, he was very pleased with the result. As he was with the 1-1 draw at Prestwich Hayes at the weekend. So with other teams dropping points around Burscough, things are looking really good, albeit they played more games than most teams competing for a playoff position.
They have, and one of those teams in and around their playoff places was West Didsbury and Chorlton, who consolidated 5th place and that final playoff spot with a 3-1 win over neighbours Abbey Hay at the Step Places Arena. Ben Elliott scoring 2 goals and then Billy Matthews scoring a goal in added time to round off a 3-1 win for them in front of 295. Quite a low turnout for a West Didsbury game. You'd usually expect something around the 500 mark, but maybe with it being a Wednesday night, that was par for the course. They actually atoned for a disappointing result that came their way on Monday night. Sorry, not Monday. It was last week, actually. I had told you that Stockport Town had scored a win over a team quite high up in the division, and it was West Didsbury and Chorlton. Stockport beat them 1-0. In Stockport to advance their moves up the table. They're now in 10th, whereas West Didsbury and Chorlton, as I say, stay in 5th.
There's not a great deal of consistency at that top, apart from Wythenshawe, albeit they've just lost a game recently. But a lot of teams taking points off each other. The only one that sort of stands out in that top 5 is Ramsbottom, who've still only lost 3 games. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's the draws, the differences between them and Wythenshawe are the draws, because Wythenshawe have only drawn 1 game. And Ramsbottom have drawn 6. So they're one of the tightest defence in the division. 29 goals conceded over 27 games.
Which, I tell you, and that makes for quite healthy reading for Ramsbottom, particularly as Padiham have started to slip up a little bit more. So you would hope that even though nothing necessarily will change with Ramsbottom leapfrogging Padiham from 3rd into 2nd, they're both still guaranteed a home game for the playoffs should they finish either 2nd or 3rd. It does make for some psychological rights, particularly as well, given 2nd plays 5th and 3rd plays 4th. In terms of the playoffs, but nonetheless, there's still a chasing pack going on outside of the playoff contenders there. One of which is FC St Helens, currently sitting in 7th place. Now, they had to settle for a draw against Litherland Remica. First points of the season. First point of Steve Scott's campaign in charge of Remy. And he did it in a bit of style as well. So even though FC St Helens went ahead after 12 minutes through Ryan Sinnott, and then went back in front after 50 minutes through Tom Lawless, his first goal since signing from Atherton LR. Alfie Walker replied back for Remy after 55 minutes to draw them level with their local rivals, and they held on to that result to give them a valuable point in their fight for survival. They are still 10 points behind Abbey Hay, who occupy the final safe position in the table, if you like. So there's still a long way to go. But nonetheless, an encouraging start for Steve Scott's men.
Yeah, listen, an awful lot of distance between them, and they like to get anywhere close to 10 points behind Abbey Hay. But let's go back to the city of Liverpool. 2 narrow defeats and then a hammering by Bearscough. It's not good, is it?
No, and I think we said that it's not good by any stretch of the imagination. So the goals that City of Liverpool conceded against Bearscough on Tuesday night added up to their 110 goals that they have now conceded in the division, by far and away the most of any team, not just in the North West Counties Premier, but the North West Counties as a whole. No team has conceded more than they have. So their struggles have been incredibly well documented, even though now, under Richard Brodie, they are starting to stabilise. Do you think that's a reasonable kind of...
I would imagine he's got a sort of squad that he can pick from now. I know he brought a couple of additions in, didn't he? But apart from that, it's stable in that. Yeah, it's whether it is. We don't know behind the scenes what's happening. There was that difficulty with Bearscough, whether they paid the rent or not, and but they've got to manage their off the field exploits first, haven't they? They've got to make sure that they can they can continue to make them payments. It's really, really difficult for them. The only thing I'd say is that, what was the attendance?
124.
124 probably doesn't pay their way. I think they probably need about 160 to break even. Paying,
because their ticket is it's about what, £10, is it? So 124. You're looking at about £1,200 ish.
Well, it depends with all the concessions, doesn't it? And the passes, of course. I mean, I would have thought they've probably got to take £1,000 a game just to break even. just on a match day with officials and what have you. So it's difficult. We know it's difficult.
Yes, we do.
But hopefully somebody's come in there and offered them a little bit of money to stabilise them towards the end of the season.
Well, we'd hope so.
But I think their biggest problem, similar to ours really, their fan base has dropped considerably because they've moved out of their area.
Yeah.
We moved away from Prescot to Crosby, and it's had a huge impact on the football club.
I'm afraid it has.
Financially, we expected that to a degree, but I think if City of Liverpool were playing well, it wouldn't matter where they. I think it's the same for any team, really. If they're playing well, people will support them.
Yeah, was that the kind of the same when? Because I know we in our past have been to places like. Prescott, and did we share with Bootle at one point as well?
I don't think we did with Bootle. It was definitely Prescott. I think we played a couple of games at Marine previously to that as well. I'm just trying to think of anywhere else we might have had a temporary ground share agreement with. I'm not too sure, but
anyway, Prescott. Because at that point we were still quite high up, weren't we? Were we Northern Premier League West by that point? Or?
Yeah, we dropped down, hadn't we, from the Premier Division to the Division 1 West, as you say.
So, what was our turnout of attendance like at that point?
I think we'd have still been getting over the 100, but then when you maybe 180, something like that, but I think it dropped off because the performances were bad and we were back at the bottom and we were facing relegation to the
Northwest Counties.
I can't remember whether we were still in the Premier, facing relegation to the West then. But either way, when you drop down so low, fans just go. You can't. Listen, I hate to say loyalty because there's no such thing as loyalty either way. But when the issue is with any football club that when you're trying to survive. And your gates go down. It's the slippery slope, isn't it? You just can't. You can't grab anything back physically. You just can't. Everything. When one thing goes wrong, everything seems to go wrong very, very quickly. And it's nice to think that if you were Everton, the football club, and you're bottom of the Premier League, you're still packing your house out every day of the week. But if Everton got relegated and then were down at the bottom of the Championship, then I think their gates would start to subside then.
Yeah. I think
that happens much quicker at our level. That's what I'm trying to say.
This is true. I think I think we've seen that in history gone by as well. So my best friend is a Blackburn fan. Now, when Blackburn were in the Premier League, they were averaging gates of about 25,000. Now they are towards the bottom end of the Championship and have been, in the Championship since about 2012.
Yeah.
So that's about 14 years. Attendances have been down to about 13,000, something like that. The only time I've seen them packed out is when they were promoted on the last day of the League One season in 2018, and that was a 25,000 sellout. But that's the only time I've seen it happen. So yeah,
I think similar's happened at Wigan Athletic, hasn't it? I think they were during the Premiership, they were regular 25,000 plus.
Yeah.
But now I would imagine that's significantly low, and they're struggling at the moment as well, aren't they? As we know, and Ryan Lowe, ex-Bearsco player, I think.
Yeah.
He's struggling at the club. I don't know whether he's been sacked yet. There's talk of him getting sacked. But it's one thing after another then, isn't it? You lose a grip on results, you lose a grip on your finances very, very quickly, and some clubs are not prepared for the drop in finances, and that's where some clubs end up going out of business. Fortunately, we've never got ourselves into that predicament.
Luckily enough.
Yeah.
I say luckily, but it's not luck, is it?
It's hard work as well.
It is hard work, yeah.
It's people still having the interest to continue the legacy. We talk about legacies quite often, and it's an absolute fact that if people are not there to protect it, then things can get a hell of a lot worse, a hell of a lot quicker as well. But anyway, listen, we wish City of Liverpool best of luck and see whether they can get back from that. We'll look at the fixtures for the weekend and see what they've got facing them next.
Yeah.
But so pretty much the same at the bottom, no change there. So we'll move on to Division 1 North. Not the kind of thing you want to see at a football match, but with an air ambulance having to land at the Daisy Arena, Little Wembley Stadium, the home of Nelson, to treat a Steeton player, George Kelly, who suffered multiple fractures to his leg. Nelson were leading 3-1 at the time, but the game was rightly abandoned after Kelly was taken to Preston Hospital for urgent surgery. Listen, we, the Speaking Frankly Football Show, would like to wish George all the very best as he undergoes his what will be a lengthy recovery. Yep. A GoFundMe page has been set up for George, who's self-employed, and has so far raised around about, maybe surpassed the 4K, certainly was around about the 4K yesterday.
Yeah.
If you can spare a few bob, then please do. We've often said on this show before that semi-professional footballers put their careers on the line by playing football, and this is definitely proof of that. I think you talked about insurance schemes last week and the reluctance of players to take up those insurance policies, because it can be quite expensive, and don't always provide you with a great income either.
No, and I think that
puts people off.
It does put people off, yeah, but at the same time, like, I know players play football for the love and what have you, but there is a source of income in there as well, you know, particularly for players at semi-pro. I don't know whether George is being paid, he might be, but in trying to earn an income there, playing football, he's now lost all of his income, you know, for being self-employed. Now, I would hope that he has some kind of insurance through his own full-time profession. Yeah.
But often young people don't.
You know, we've seen it before with... there was a player, I think he was playing for Atherton LR. He done his ACL on the last game of the season, and I think he's a crane operator by trade, and that really set him back a while. But largely, if play, you know, the consensus that I'd had when kind of speaking to people about this is that it's very, very difficult to actually claim on the insurance. You know, once you have it in place and once you need it, and there's a lot of loopholes to kind of jump through to get it. And I think it's kind of got to lead to the question of, why does it need to be that difficult if they're paying the premiums?
Well, listen, I've said it before, didn't I, that we've had representatives of these insurance companies come and do, you know, their speeches before the players, and it's very, very rare if one of them takes up the offer, and then I think they might initially, and then they don't carry on with the payments. But listen, whatever the case is with George, we wish him all of the very best, and hopefully he gets back to work as soon as we possibly can. But like I said, there's a GoFundMe page there. If anybody can contribute towards it, then please do so. Yeah,
we just had an update from Steeton a couple of hours ago, actually. They've announced that George Kelly's been discharged from hospital and he is now at home to continue his recovery. He sends his thanks to all the well-wishers, you know, in light of his serious injury, and he hopes to be back on the move soon.
Have you seen what the fund page is up to? I think they were aiming to raise around about £5,000. It certainly was close to 4K when I was looking yesterday.
It's at just over 3,800
right now. It's stayed around there.
It has, yeah.
So it looks as though it's peaked.
It may have peaked.
Yeah. So listen, hopefully if anybody's listening, a little bit of revival there. Listen, if you're fathers of sons and you understand the business of football, then you'll certainly be able to understand where we're coming from there if you can contribute towards it. But yeah, listen, best of luck, George. Nice to see that you're back home, starting your recovery properly. So listen, Nelson dropped from the summit after this game was suspended, allowing Thornton Clevelands to take advantages. They returned to winning ways with a 3-2 win over Holker Old Boys. A good win. We always say a win over Holker Old Boys is a good one. Nelson, they gave up a 2-0 lead to lose to Squires Gate over the midweek.
It's absolutely ludicrous.
Didn't see that one coming, but then you know what? Squires Gate have managed to take over them, and they've reached the dizzy heights of second place.
They're in second place now.
And Squires unbeaten in their last 9 league games. And a lot of we find ourselves saying this often, don't we? That teams are surprising us, and Squires another one. I think we mentioned it before, but they're still surprising us.
Yeah, before Christmas, Squires were around about the 14th, 13th place mark in the table. They're now up to second after 9 games unbeaten. That is quite remarkable a turnaround for a team that we thought would languish a little bit after having been relegated from the Premier Division last season. But no, they are determined to prove that the Fylde Coast still stands strong in terms of football, as both the sides at the top of the table are from the Fylde Coast. And what a stunning turnaround it was, as well. As we say, they were 3-0 down against Garstang last weekend at home, but then came roaring back in the second half with a double each from Will Squires and Christian Edepeye, giving them a 5-3 win over Garstang, and then they follow that up with another come from behind win over Nelson, and in fact all of their goals were scored in the last 10 minutes of the game. Ivan Nielsen de Silva getting a goal after 80 minutes, and then a Dean Ing double in the 89th and 93rd minutes, completing quite...
His name's coming up a lot at the moment, isn't it, Dean Ing?
Dean Ing, yeah. So doing a little bit of research on Dean Ing, as I can do. He's quite a late starter to Squires Gate. But he's now been responsible for a hefty chunk of their goals recently. So he started out playing for Squires Gate in July, but he's really hit a bit of a purple patch since the beginning of December. So he scored goals in the defeat to Nelson, the victory over Maghull. He scored a double against Main Road, one against Steaton at the beginning of the year, and then 2 more against Squires Gate, which makes it, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 goals this season for Dean Ing. That's one of the highest in the division. I think it's only edged out by Nelson Van of Droylsden and Spencer Lucas of MSB Walton. So some really good performances there from Dean Ing, as he helps to haul Squires Gate up the table.
Yeah, I was getting very confused with Danny Ings, to be honest with you. But
if Danny Ings was playing for Squires Gate, that would be a hell of a coup, to be quite honest with you.
It would a bit, wouldn't it?
Yes, just a little.
So, moving on to Droylsden, they beat Daisy Hill 2-0, and MSB Walton beating Ashton Town 2-1 at the weekend. Nelson have now dropped to 5th place. That is the first league game Nelson have lost since the middle of August. But bearing in mind that they've only played 16 games at the moment, not a lot of games have been played, but still...
Yeah, still 6 games in hand, really.
Yeah, decent record. No change at the bottom. Ashton Athletic, Garstang and Main Road all losing at the weekend. Ashton Town dropping off again. Topsy-turvy, really.
It's absolutely... And I said this to you before we started recording. It just seems like nobody wants to win.
Yeah, because you were talking about Squires Gate, 35 points in second position. Thornton Cleveley's 35 points on the top, just purely on goal difference. But if you look at the distance between that and 11th place, a total of 7 points.
Yeah,
there's no... Well, look, I'm just looking at it. 9th place, Maghull are on 30 points, so they're only 5 points behind. They've got a couple of games in hand on the top 2 teams, and could easily go above them. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Just everyone's losing and beating everybody else at this stage in the season. Nobody's producing much consistency that will account for them getting a real stranglehold on this division.
Well, it's definitely got us all in suspenders, hasn't it?
It has absolutely got us in suspenders as well, yeah. A lot of the games were called off on Tuesday night due to waterlogged pitches and ground issues, but one that did go ahead in the First Division North was Colne versus AFC Blackpool. Now, Colne have had a struggle since coming back down through the Premier Division and are currently 15th in the table, but they did manage to pull away from the bottom three with a quite excellent 5-1 victory over the Mechanics AFC Blackpool. Miles Story grabbing a hat-trick in front of 123 on a cold Tuesday night in Colne.
That's not bad on a cold night.
That is really not bad at all, and it does improve things no end up for Colne, who still have a game in hand on a couple of the teams above them and could get to 14th if results go their way this weekend.
Like you say, absolutely crazy. Anybody that puts on a good run there
of about 3 games,
even in those bottom 5 teams, they could end up finding themselves in the middle, if not in the playoff positions.
Exactly,
it doesn't make any sense at all. But listen, North West Counties South Runcorn haven't played for a couple of weeks, so Eccleshall took advantage of that when they beat Shawbury 3-0 on Tuesday night. So obviously, Mazzy Boswell couldn't continue that.
The revival
with them. But listen, in doing so, Eccleshall have reduced Runcorn's lead to 12 points. Telford were thrashed 6-0 by Sandbach and dropped to 3rd place.
Yep.
The only change at the bottom was Shawbury swapping places with Alsager, who didn't play. They beat the bottom club, Wolverhampton Sporting Community 3-0 at the weekend. Ormond, second from bottom, were beaten 3-2 by Camelaird. So looking at that division, slightly different there. There's quite a sort of points tally at the top. Certainly Runcorn, 57 points. The top 6, no less than 40 points. And then you look at that bottom 5, the bottom 4-5 with 22 points.
Yeah,
big difference between that and the North Division.
Oh, there's a very big difference between that and the North Division. Yeah, and I think the First Division South, as was the case last season, there's a real stranglehold of teams in and above that top end who have taken the initiative and are looking to kind of move their way up to the top, as Winsford United and Abbey Hulton United did last season. It looks like Runcorn are going to run away with it a little bit. There's still 12 points gap between them and Eccleshall. Even though Eccleshall do have a game in hand on them, it's very difficult to see where exactly Runcorn are going to drop points.
Well, there's a 24 goal difference there for starters, isn't there?
They've
scored 70 goals in 22 games. That's amazing.
That's ludicrous. That's almost 3 a game when you think about it like that, and less than a goal a game in terms of concession of goals. But the playoffs do look a little bit tasty, particularly given Sandbach's 6-0 win over Telford. So Eccleshall are currently in second place, 45 points. Then you've got Telford in third on 44, Stafford in fourth on 41, Sandbach in fifth on 41, having overtaken Stockport Georgians and occupying that final playoff berth. The Georgians have 41 points themselves, but by virtue of goal difference does Sandbach get in. And then there's a little bit of gap where Barnton, Newmills and Asheville all on 36 points, and then there's handfuls of points in between, everywhere from 10th down to 16th. And then you've got Alsager on 18 points, Hormond on 15, and Wolverhampton Sporting Community on 5.
Well, if I haven't said it before, I'll say it again. If you get down to Sandbach United, lovely little setup there.
I have been.
Yeah, you have. You went with your mate, didn't you?
I did, yes. Who lives in Sandbach, but never seen Sandbach United play. So I took him to see him when they played Pilks in the pre-season, and he thought it was great. Yeah, parking, pints, the telly was on.
They've got that big digital scoreboard as well, haven't they? It's amazing, isn't it? At that level, you just don't expect it, do you?
No, you do not. No, we certainly don't. I mean, we don't have a scoreboard to to make note of.
Well, we don't score to have a score.
Oh,
is that a bit too close to the bone?
Little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
Listen, we'll move on to the Northern Premier League Premier Division. The revival continues at Prescot Cables. They had a good 3-0 win over Warrington Rylands on Tuesday night. That said, they suffered a 2-1 defeat at Warrington Town at the weekend, but I think they'll be happy with the 10 points out of their last 15. The key to their success is their home form. So with another home game against bottom club Workington Town on Saturday at Valerie Park, you'd expect them to get a victory again.
You would hope so, yeah.
We talked about the drop in budget and the obviously personnel leaving, including the goalkeeper Calvin Hare.
Yeah.
So difficult times for them, and they seem to be doing all right.
They still seem to be pulling together, don't they? Yeah. So they beat Whitby 2-1, then that was followed by back-to-back games against the Warrington teams. They lost 2-1 to Town, but then beat Rylands, who I think are higher up in the division.
Yeah, they're up there, aren't they?
They're fourth, whereas Town are sixth. So they could have had a bit of a double whammy there, but nonetheless they pulled together to 31 points, which brings them level with Whitby Town, Cleethorpes, and then a point behind Guiseley, and 3 points behind Ilkeston. And if they get to there, then they're just outside the top 10, really. So a decent
10 points away from the play. Is it the top four? Sorry, the second to fifth, is it that play in the playoffs, or is it second to seventh like they do?
It's second to fifth.
Yeah.
They keep it nice and simple down at Northern Premier League level. If they're currently in 14th on 31 points, but there's 10 points between themselves and Stockton, who were in 5th and that last playoff berth. I can't imagine anybody at Prescot Cables is thinking about the playoffs at the minute. More likely just to consolidate a decent and dignified position before they start to look at maintaining actual existence and their own financial income. But nonetheless, a really positive couple of weeks for Prescot in amongst that result against the Rylands.
I'd love to see what the opinion is of Prescot Cables supporters in terms of whether they feel as though they've reached their natural level or not. I mean, if you go back a couple of seasons ago when they were competing against City of Liverpool, I think they won the playoff final, didn't they, to actually get that promotion up to the Premier Division. I think they were getting gates in excess of 1,000, which is fabulous for Prescot Cables, because I remember the Prescot Cables of old when Tommy Lawson was winning back-to-back titles, I think it was, and the gates were nowhere near as good as they are now. I think they've dropped a little bit now. I think probably 500 or 600 or something like that.
Yeah, 500 or 600 tends to be the average, but their biggest was 909, so it still proves that they can turn out a big crowd, on the day.
Makes you wonder though whether a club like that now need to be looking at getting, and whether they've got the security of tenure to do it. I'm not entirely sure, but whether they should be investing in a plastic pitch so that they can make more money. But even then, there's not a bottomless sort of pockets there.
No,
either,
of course
is there?
not. No, and we talked about plastic pitches before and how just ludicrously expensive they can be. I mean, we're talking. What, about 300,000 is it to
remake? No, that's just once you've got the membrane in there and you've done all the drainage.
Oh God!
So you're probably looking at in excess of $1 million. And we'll come on to that with
Bootle.
With Bootle. Yeah, we'll talk about Bootle in a minute. But in terms of funding for that, we talked about Shadderton, didn't we? We spoke to the
co-manager. Yeah.
Shadderton manager.
Yeah, lovely fella. Can't remember his name.
That's terrible for us. We speak to that many people, but
we do.
Should really do our research before. But lovely lad, and what he basically said is that they managed to get I think it was 1.1 million off the Lionesses fund.
Yeah.
Which helped towards putting a plastic pitch in there, which benefits the ladies' game as well as the gents' game. So, there are an awful lot of sort of trials and tests that the FA come up with in terms of putting these pitches down. We'll talk about Bootles in a minute, which is a little bit different, but Yeah, so listen, Prescot, considering all the little woes, they seem to be doing okay, so good luck to them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they seem to be stabilising, don't they?
Yeah. Northern Premier League West, Lower Breck, still top of Division 1 West, despite losing their last 2 games. Most recently on Tuesday night, they were beaten by Runcorn Linnets 4-2. Linnets are just 3 points behind Lower Breck, so the Runcorn teams, both sides of Runcorn Town, and the Linnets are doing extremely well this season.
They certainly are. So Runcorn Linnets are now in second place.
Had a change of manager, didn't they? Michael Ellison's come back in.
Yeah, Michael Ellison came back in for... He was a really good manager as well.
I know,
but everyone liked him.
But they seem to be doing really well since
Ellison came back in, yeah, absolutely. So they've leapfrogged Bury and Avro and are now in second place, and are on a bit of an unbeaten run since then. So they may even have desires to overhaul Lower Breck at the top of the table. There is only 3 points gap between Breck and Linnets, so you can't write anything off as far as they're concerned. But anyway,
they're certainly set up in terms of fan base as well. They command. I think there was about 600, just over 600 mark for that. And the old Runcorn back in the day, big FA Cup team weren't they beating teams on a regular basis until, of course, they lost Canal Street, I think it was, and things went from bad to worse. But Runcorn Linnets, you talked about Brad Cook, by the way. He was
Brad Cook, that's the one.
Resigned. Back in January, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was very recently that Brad Cook left and Michael Ellison came in. Yeah, the turnouts for the Linnets are actually reasonably positive. So they average 559. With their highest being 854. So they are reasonably well backed, actually, in terms of personnel around the ground. And that actually seems to be, stirring them on into this little push that they've got through the playoffs. So as I say, they sort of stabilised around about 5th or 6th, but now their run of good form has seen them catapult up to second, although admittedly in a quite congested top 6, where anywhere from 1st down to 6th is separated by just 7 points, with games in hand being opportune for certain teams. But anyway, Bury are now in 4th and have turned into something of a draw specialist since beating Staley Celtic 6-2. They've drawn to Avro, Darlaston Town and Stafford Rangers, so back-to-back draws for them. As I say, it's stayed them stabilised in 4th, although they can leapfrog any of the 2 teams above them, the Linnets and Avro, with a single changeover in results. There it is getting very, very tight, but like I say, I should think the pressure is on Tim Lees and his team to ensure that Bury not only stay there but continue to work their way up. What do you think?
Yeah, listen, like I say, it's exciting at all levels of non-league football at the moment, isn't it? I mean, surprises, shocks. But I keep coming back to what I was saying before about, teams reaching their natural levels. Stalybridge, of course, played in the conference for many years.
They did.
Yeah.
I remember that, actually.
Pardon?
I remember them being there very vaguely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite regular to see them there.
Yeah. So a lot of clubs, a lot of history at that level as well. And when we talk about dilution of football and some of the teams up there that we would never have heard about back in the day. I certainly never heard of Avro or Darlaston.
No.
I heard of Stafford Rangers, of course. Stafford Rangers have been with us for a long time. But just listen, going back to Runcorn, obviously, they were set up in 2006, a replacement for the town's previous club, which was Runcorn Football Club, who had to resign from the Northern Premier League due to financial difficulties. So, like I say, it's all about realising, not so much thinking about your ambitions, but also realising what your natural level is and sort of steering yourselves in the right direction when you do it. All very well and good being ambitious and wanting to chase promotions every season. But I do worry about these clubs. So, I mean, we look at it and we're in awe of some of the clubs at the moment, aren't we? The way Lower Breck has transformed itself in, 15 years, 16 years since it formed, something like that. It's amazing how far they've come, but you can travel a little bit too fast sometimes.
Yeah, you can. I mean, we talk about running before walking, and we talk about teams who have, you have very little option to turn down the opportunity of promotion, like what you could do in times gone by. I remember hearing about Marine having the opportunity to go up, and they neglected to do so. They decided to stay where they were because they felt it was more their natural level.
Well, I don't know whether they could actually take the promotion back in them days, because you had to have a four-sided ground as far as I know, and that's probably the big stumbling block for Marine now. And of course, you worry that we'll come on to Marine, but they're doing really, really well, and if they get a promotion through the playoffs at the end of this season, they've begun big time. Then, you know what I mean? That's that new stadium becomes a huge priority for them. But listen, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fascinating what's going on. Berry, I was going to say that I think in terms of looking at the interim management there, I feel as though they probably made a bit of a mistake not appointing somebody straight away now. But I don't know what you think. Listen, they're still there or
they are still there.
There's not a great deal of gap between them and sneaking out of those playoff positions.
No. You would like to think that Bury still have enough in the tank to kind of get there.
Do you feel as though Bury have already made an appointment? They're just not telling anybody? Because, listen, we'll come into it in a minute about controversial things, but, we're talking about Clegg going to, what's we got at Hyde United?
Yeah.
He was one of the people that we were touting for the
Bury job.
For the Bury job, but, he's only there till the end of the season, so we don't know. But what I'm saying to you is that, given the fact that they could actually fall out of these playoffs, would you have given somebody that job? Would you have appointed somebody permanently rather than hang about?
Yes, I would. I feel like
it feels like a Manchester United situation.
Yeah, I feel like you only appoint a caretaker manager until the end of the season when there is very little to play for.
But as a supporter, nobody likes an interim manager. You want to know who your manager is.
But this is a supporter-run club, so who's made that call there?
Well, at the end of the day, the committee that's been elected by the supporters, by the people that own it.
That was more.
Have given them the. I don't know whether they'd have to go. No, they wouldn't have to go full on 2,000 members or whatever it is and say, listen, should we bring Clegg?
Drop the names into a ballot box.
Yeah, should we bring Clegg or Tommy Lawson in or Liam Watson? Which one is it going to be? And then they'll go for a Mank any day of the week, won't they? You know what I mean?
Never been a Scouser.
Well, they did though, didn't they? That's the point though. They did. They had a Scouser there, and he's still director of football.
Okay, fine.
You never know in this game, do you? But
no.
So what was your question? I forgot what your question was now. I think I might have answered it in a roundabout way anyway.
Yeah.
We were talking about Bootle. We were talking about Bury, weren't we?
Yeah, I think we were talking about Bury and whether they need to appoint a caretaker manager.
Oh yeah, I got to that far, but I was just trying to remember your original question. It doesn't matter anyway. Listen, we'll move on to Bootle. So you mentioned Stafford Rangers. So yeah, Bootle are one of those teams that are sort of in that chasing pack that could replace Bury very easily if they carry on with their current form, unbeaten in their last 5 games. They're just now 2 points away from the playoffs. But on another subject, and I think we sort of hit on it before, Bootle have decided to tear up their hybrid carpet at the end of the season, replace it with a full plastic pitch. What do you think of that?
It's very ambitious, and I like to see the ambition there. And I would certainly hope that they've taken that calculated risk in knowing what a plastic pitch will bring them, as opposed to the costs and outlay. I would hope that there's been some kind of, backing in terms of funding from, the FA or the local council, something along those lines, so that they're not just going into it hoping that they'll be paid back in dividends. over the next few years?
It's you go back to 2020, so they installed a state-of-the-art hybrid pitch at Berry Street Garage Stadium. Like I say, in the summer of 2020, as part of a football foundation pilot scheme. The 5% hybrid system installed by FlexGrass and Tsffs pitches features 95% natural grass, improved drainage, and a rain-bed irrigation system, enhancing durability so that you can utilise community use. So that they had, I think they would have had Sports England and other funding streams to help that. And it looks as though pretty much the same now. This has been a test case for the FA, and now they've decided that at the end of this 5-6 years, whatever it is, we're going to replace it. So I think they're probably getting most of the funding from those funding sources.
Okay, fair enough.
It doesn't look as though they'd be dipping much into there. But listen, we need to get somebody on from Bootle to see what it's going to be going from a hybrid pitch to a plastic pitch. I think.
Do you know what the difference is?
Well, a hybrid pitch, obviously, there's a little bit of plastic in, isn't it?
But it's mainly grass still.
It's not Deso. So Deso, a lot of the Premier League pitches now are Deso, so they're like half grass, half plastic, aren't they?
Okay.
It's all about speed and the ability to grow grass quick as well, because what they do is they have them big heat lamps, don't they, going up and down the remote controlled, up and down the ground.
It makes it look like a cannabis farm, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes it look as though they've grown cannabis. So the new ground at Bramley-Moor Dock has got those as well. So they'll be going up and down there as we speak now, growing a little bit more.
A bit more to sell.
Wacky grass.
A bit more to sell on the sidelines.
So yeah, I would imagine that they've as a sort of a pilot scheme, they're probably under obligation now to change it back to what it sounded as though it was a very complicated procedure. And during that time, by the way, Dave Jones, who's the manager of Everton LR, and as we know, I think he's the Stalybridge Celtic groundsman, isn't he, or somewhere?
Well, he was Altrincham once upon a time.
Altrincham, that's it. Altrincham, he was Manchester. Yeah, he was involved in that pilot scheme as well. Because he was the groundsman and he was the youth team manager, was he? Or reserve manager under 23s?
Yeah, something like that.
At Bootle, before he obviously got the Everton LR gig.
Yeah, he was at FC St Helens for a bit as well, wasn't he? That was where he started out, and I think he went to Bootle.
He explains how different it is from the pitches that he's normally accustomed to. So listen, best of luck to Bootle. It seems to be a good thing. I think a hybrid carpet's probably a little bit difficult to keep. Whereas the more proper full plastic pitches are a lot easier. So
what do Marine play on? What do we use?
Plastic.
Ours is plastic. Yeah.
4G, 3G. Yeah. I don't know what you call it these days. 4G, 3G. It's really good standard now, isn't it?
Skin burning.
Well, yeah. Do you remember the carpets back in the day though? They were even worse then. Yeah. I remember the first, you used to call it AstroTurf, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, Skelm United, not Skelm United, but Skelmersdale Blaygate used to have it, before they had a cinder pitch, before they had the plastic pitch, they had a cinder pitch, so it was a cinder track, if you like.
God.
So people used to play football on there, believe it or not. And then they put the what was the old sort of Luton QPR AstroTurf type stuff in, and that was a burner. That. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I remember.
That was like sliding on our carpets in our houses.
Oh no.
Yeah. But much worse and much colder. And when it got icy, it was more lethal than grass itself. But that's where my opinion of artificial pitches, I didn't like them.
No.
Because the old ones were still the Astro, very little on them. Whereas now it looks more like grass, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, you feel it and you
Prescot's is great. Marine's is great. I think most people now, younger people, are just more accustomed to playing it. I listened to Paul Scholes and Nicky Button. They said they loved playing on. They used to love playing on. Where was the European game? The Champions League game where they ended up playing on plastic. Might have been the same season they won the Champions League. I don't know.
God, that was back in 2008.
But wherever it was, they went to foreign. It was one of them sort of second-rate outfits, one of those.
Oh, yeah. This was back in 2008, wasn't it? Or was it back in 99?
I'm not. It's one or the other, definitely. But people used to say, "Oh, you're going to play on plastic pitch," and they thought, "Oh, no, we love this. This is great."
God, that's weird.
Yeah, they weren't bothered by it at all because they'd probably trained on it before they played on it anyway. So anyway, listen, best of luck to Bootle for the future. They certainly seem to be doing things well both on and off the pitch.
Certainly are.
Now, Clitheroe's form has dipped since their adventures in the FA trophies. Remember, they managed to beat York, the mighty York, who are top of the National League now, I think. So they're 6 points ahead. They've only gained 6 points from the last 6 games. A 3-0 loss to Bottom Blood Trafford on Tuesday night wouldn't have gone down that well with Sean McConville, in my opinion.
No, it absolutely didn't. And ironically enough, it was an ex-Nelson player who was at the heart of their difficulties there. Charlie Frost bagging 2 for Trafford either side of half-time to add to Brad Burns' 6th minute opener against the Blues, who you're right are on a bit of a struggle of form of late. They did beat Wythenshawe Town 4-0 a week and a half ago, but a 1-1 draw at Newcastle Town didn't make for a particularly convincing display. And then prior to the Scunthorpe game, which they gallantly exited the FA Trophy, there was a draw against Atherton Collieries as well. So they are now in 14th place in the table.
Well, money being a bit of an issue as it was last season, you'd like to think through the FA Trophy run they've made a few, but do you think they consolidate a little bit now and maybe Sean's looking at, well, we're a little bit off, well, way off the pace now in terms of the playoffs. Should we sort of consolidate now and get ourselves prepared for next season?
I think that's going to be a part of what he has to do. Yeah. I mean, they're still...
It's a setback again, though, isn't it?
It's another setback for Clitheroe, yeah, and they are 14 points away from 5th position, which is currently Staley Celtic. So there's very little chance.
At this stage of the season,
they're almost entirely. Yeah. So with 21, you play 42 games in this division. So that's 16 games left for Clitheroe, and they've still got a lot of work to do. Even just to make the top 10, I think they need to be looking at that as a particularly given their investiture as well. They've made some big signings from the lower leagues. Leon Creech came in last season, but since then they've had Josh Briggs come in from FC St Helens. Tom Lancaster also came in from FC St Helens as well. So McConville's starting to. He's been pulling together his team now for the last 12 months, so I feel like next season's really got to be a bit more of a do or die for him.
Right, listen, we'll move on to the National League North. Southport pulled off a great win at the weekend, beating Merthyr Town 1-0 at Hague Avenue. A really good win considering Merthyr, I think, were up in 3rd place at the time, still in 3rd place. Yeah, when you look at the table now, it's they've moved themselves up to 18th place, but they're still only 3 points away from the drop zone. So there's still a hell of a lot of work to be done at Southport, but they're pulling off the occasional wins, and they're doing. They're obviously doing well in the trophy, and we'll come to the trophy in a minute. But yeah, really difficult at that bottom end of the table.
It is really difficult at that bottom end of the table, and I think if you're a Southport fan, you could only really applaud what Neil Dans has been doing since he got here. I think what can be said is that he's stabilising the club to a point where relegation isn't really looking likely, and now everything that maybe starts from next season kind of builds towards a bit more of a Southport renaissance. if you like. They're a huge team in the National League North. They are really well followed at Hague Avenue.
Yeah, they're getting better followed now than they've been done for a long time, because obviously the double act, the new owners there have invested a lot into the local community, and the gates have really increased considerably, which is good news for them. But there's still, like I say, still a hell of a lot of work to be done.
There's still a hell of a lot of work to be done, yeah. So Oxford City are currently the team in the relegation zone for whom Southport have to be really careful of, and there is only a 3-point gap between them, to be fair. So they can't kind of rule anything out at the minute. But that being said, there's teams within a 3 or 4 point gap who are stemming all the way up to about 13th place, where we find Chorley. And Chester a few points ahead of them. My God, what a fall off for Chester that is. But anyway, point I'm making is that Southport, from having kind of been in the doldrums, now starting to to do some really decent bits here. They're 3 out of their last 5 games they've come away with points, and I think 2 of those games they were teams in sort of the top 5. So there is some positivity coming out of Southport, and I don't feel that they'll get relegated this season. And I feel like they can start to kind of work towards building a better Southport.
Well, from a Southport perspective, it's still a very, very stressful time for the season.
I think so. I mean,
you wouldn't like to be in that position. It's not comfortable at all.
Well, no, the new owners made it very clear that
it's in their hands.
It is in their hands, and I think the new owners made it very clear that they weren't going to be investing huge sums of money a la Roman Abramovich. So we knew this was going to take time, and it was going to take commitment, and it was going to take consistency, which is why I feel like the decision to kind of keep faith in Neil Downs, where maybe earlier on in the season it may have been a more prudent move to get rid of him. From a pessimist's point of view, they would have liked
from a supporter's point of view,
they would have been questioning it, but now kind of having seen the work that he's doing, they're starting to see some fruits of the labour. Yeah, and I think if they can get through this season, consolidating as much of their squad as they can, and just try and, get as high up as they can. If they can get to, what do you think about 13th, 12th? If they can do that, they've got a decent they've got a decent springboard for next season. But then it's looking to the finances. It's looking how they can embed more money within Hague Avenue.
Yeah. So looking at Marine now. Marine managed to take points off the leaders South Shields with a 2-2 draw at the Marine Travel Arena Stadium. That puts them now 2 points off the playoff positions. They are currently in 9th place. But they've got a game in hand on the 2 teams, Radcliffe and Scarborough Athletic. So with that game in hand, they could push themselves into the playoffs. I'm listening not so long ago, it doesn't feel that long ago, it's certainly the first half of the season, when they were struggling to gain points, that people were talking about heads rolling then. How times have changed at Marine?
Oh, very much so, yeah. So even after that point against South Shields, they then had a home game against Chester on Tuesday night, and they won 2-1, which has boosted them up into the top 10. They're currently in 9th as things stand, level on points with Telford United. And as you say, only 2 points behind Darlington in 5th. So you're not ruling out a playoff push at this point in time, particularly given, as you say, there are some teams that they've got games in hand on just above them. Now, the top 4 is a bit of a runaway. So Kidderminster are on 51 points, Merthyr Town 56, Fylde 57, and South Shields at the top on 63. But nonetheless, Marine choosing now to enter a really decent run of form. They have lost a couple of games They lost to Buxton, and they've lost to Chorley just prior to Christmas, which they wouldn't be happy about. But nonetheless, there's there's a decent few games coming up after they've negotiated the FA Trophy. So they've got Hereford away on Tuesday, February 3rd. That's followed by a visit to Scarborough from to the Marine Travel Arena, and then Curzon Ashton on Tuesday, the 10th of February, my birthday. And then Leamington Spa and Oxford City.
What date was that?
The 10th
of
February.
All right. I'll put it in my diary.
Put that in your diary, Franklin.
Yeah. Listen, Bobby Grant's doing a fabulous job
he
there.
Certainly
isn't he?
is.
Like I say, there was calls early doors, or the fears that he wasn't. He wasn't cut out. He wasn't cut out for the job. He's certainly proven them wrong.
Yes, he is.
Listen, best of luck to both teams. But listen, moving on to Radcliffe, their poor form continue. We don't mention them as often as we should, but they were hammered at home 5-1 to Buxton on. Who were having a great season, really.
Yeah, Buxton are having a great season by all accounts, really, aren't they? So they're in 10th. Sorry?
They're in 10th, yeah.
They are in 10th, yeah. Another one of those teams that could make a late charge for the playoffs, or certainly consolidate themselves within the top 10, having taken a couple of scalps recently. Whereas Radcliffe, they're 6th. So they should be, making every kind of charge for Darlington. Darlington are level on points, but Kidderminster aren't out of range, even though there's 8 points between them. But it seems like things are going a little bit haywire for Jono and Bernie. And you've got to wonder, does all the talk over Bury job have anything to do with that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Listen, we still don't know whether they've made it. Listen, I say this because I do believe these deals are made way before they actually happen. In terms of change of guard and what have you. If Bury are not going to, if Bury are going to continue with the interim management into next season, which I don't believe they are, then they've definitely got a backup somewhere. And it's whether that backup is Jono and Bernie or Berno or I don't know, somebody else. But
maybe the fact remains, though, is that they have. They've lost their last 3 games. They drew. They beat Spennymoor Town on the 17th of January. But I think this also kind of underlines a bit of a fixture pile-up as well. So they've played Saturday and Tuesday since the 17th of January. So that's 4 games that they've played between then and now, and we're recording on the Thursday night, which is the 29th. So they've played 4 games in 10 days. Okay, they have a game on the 31st, a game on the 3rd, a game on the 7th, a game on the 10th, the 14th, and then they've got a break for a week for the visit of Peterborough Sports on the 21st. And these are not easy games that they're going to negotiate either. So they've got Chester this Saturday, then Oxford City, Kings Lynn Town, Darlington and Chorley. So do you reckon the fixture congestion is part of the problem?
Listen, certainly play a big part in it. I mean, but you look further down the table there and you look at Macclesfield. Macclesfield have only played 22 games, is it? So it might be a little bit more than that. But they played less than everybody else. Obviously, their exploits in the FA Cup are well documented. So them themselves, they've got a fair bit of work to do. What are they on? Yeah, they played 25. So the 3 games in hand on most teams, if not 4 in some cases above them. So if you look at that, then they could, 48 points. They could be well in the playoff positions. But listen, it's a big league, isn't it? It's 46 games in a season. It's a reminder of what it was like back in the day when we were in the Premier Division of the North West Counties. It was 2 games a week, and then with all the postponements, you think you're going to get a bit of a break at Christmas. If you're still in the cup competitions, you're still playing games. If you've had postponements, you're still playing games Tuesdays and sometimes Tuesdays, Thursdays, and extending the season, as happened for us when we played our We had to change our players' presentation because
We were still playing.
well, the season was extended by a week, and we had to play Colne at Colne, believe it or not, which was our final game in the Premier Division.
God.
The North West County. So yeah, listen, it's never easy, fixture congestion, but it also, if you're winning, I think the momentum carries you through sometimes. You look at the situation with Bury last season, and they were playing catch up, weren't they?
They were playing catch up. I think they had 7 games in hand on the
Didn't harm them at all.
on Ramsbottom and Chadderton at the time, who were leading, and no, they just kept going and going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose in some ways it can, and in some ways it just galvanises you.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, we'll move on to the FA Trophy. It's a massive weekend for Marine and Southport, with both clubs can beat in the 5th round of the FA Trophy. Do you know how much the prize money is for that? While I'm talking, you find out.
Okay, fine.
Marine are away to Tamworth, and Southport are away to AFC Fylde. Both really complex ties, I suppose. Tamworth mid-table in the National League, and AFC Fylde a second in the National League North. So difficult games for both of them. You'd like to think that maybe, who's got the best chance?
For that one,
Yeah, I think Southport have probably got the best chance.
Southport to away at FC Fylde.
Difficult.
No, I want to say Marine. Say Marine.
I mean, on that basis, it looks like Tamworth and you're going for Marine?
I think Marine have got the better opportunity away at Tamworth. Now, admittedly, there's a league's difference between Marine and Tamworth, but there was how many? 2, 3 between Clitheroe and York, and then 3. I think there was about 5 between Macclesfield and Crystal Palace. So, things can happen. And don't forget, Marine are, they might only be 9th at the minute in the in the National League North, but that could easily transfer into being 5th with a couple of games changeover. So, for me, given how well Bobby Grant started this season in comparison to Neil Dans at Southport, it's obviously taken Dans just that little bit longer. I'm saying Marine, me.
Well, listen, it'd definitely be nice to see shocks. Listen, best of luck to Marine and Southport at the weekend. Let's hope you.
Right. So I've got the monies up. So both Southport and Marine are guaranteed £1,750 if they lose.
All right.
So even if they lose,
not much.
They're getting £1,750. If they win, they're getting £6,000. Now,
that's a bit better.
That's a bit better, but bearing in mind as well that to get this far, they've already accrued 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 18 and a half, 19, 20. They've got about 23 grand so far.
Yeah, I worked it out something like 22,500.
So they've made a really good run within the. So just to get this far, they've secured themselves enough money to run us for about a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've done reasonably well so far, and I think there's extra purses there for Grant and for Dan's to start improving the squad come the summer. Now, if they make it through to the quarterfinals, and they'll receive £6,000 for doing that. If their run ends in the quarterfinals, they'll receive £2,000. If they win, they receive £7,500. They go out in the semi-finals, they receive £5,000 and win £15,000 if they get to the final at Wembley. And if they lose at Wembley, they get £60,000, and if they win, they get £30,000.
Yeah. And of course, TV rights, one would imagine that they get a little bit of money from the TV.
Yeah, because it's played on Sky, isn't it? The FA Trophy is usually broadcast on Sky. So
it's DN Sports now. I don't know what it's on, but
Daisy.
It's on something anyway.
Anyway, yeah. But nonetheless, there's a good bit of money involved in the FA Trophy, which is why I suppose McConville and his boys would have been grateful for their run through to it, because they fell in the 4th round, so they received £1,500 just for losing at Scunthorpe. But before that, they'd pulled together a decent amount of about £16,000 just getting there.
So, from what I gather, Marine are taking at least 2 coach loads of supporters over to Tamworth, and any other travelling supporters as well. So, listen, a nice day out for them. Come what may, and hopefully the results go their way.
Okay.
Listen, we'll move on to controversial corner. There's not a great deal to talk about. Northern Premier League, Michael Clegg has been put in charge of Hyde United until the end of the season. Former guest on our show, of course. Michael was managing Atherton Collieries before Christmas, but before he decided to take a break to spend more time with his family and concentrate on his business. Business is now obviously
that didn't work.
A little bit of a controversial subject, because people are saying, "Well, hang on a minute, all of a sudden you're not so busy," and I don't think he's actually got back off holiday yet. I think he was, when he was announced the interim manager of Hyde. It is interim. Yeah, interim manager till the end of the season. I think he was already on holiday when he was offered the
He
gig.
he was in Spain or something like that when he was given the gig. And you've got to kind of laugh at that, really, haven't you? The fact that he's on holiday. Yeah, I'm trying to spend time with my family. Oh, Hyde United want to give me a job. I mean, all right then.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing is, when you make that decision to part ways with a football club, whether you be a director, a manager, assistant manager, a coach, even a player, when a player decides to move on, a difficult decision is to be made. And sometimes when you make them decisions, very soon after, you wonder whether you've made the right decision. So walking away from football might have sounded pretty good at that time. A lot of speculation was the reason why he was doing it was because he thought, well, I'm going to be taking on the Berry gig, and I'm only suggesting that he could possibly be the new Berry manager at the end of the season. Maybe thought to himself, well, I know I've got the job and I need a little bit of a break, but then now, because he's taking up the interim job at Hyde, you'd have to say he's just done a U-turn, and he's probably felt as though he's lost without football. Tommy Lawson says it to me quite often.
What would you be doing if you...
Yeah, what would you do if you were chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club now? What would you be... would your life be as fulfilled?
Well, you'd be doing a lot of gardening, I should think. You'd be doing a lot of trips to York, and your ticker would be much better off.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, of course.
And your blood pressure.
Yeah, I mean, blood pressure's okay at the moment. It's just everything else. I've got a glass back and it's falling apart. But other than that, I think, listen, give Cleggy a break. Sometimes you make a decision.
Give Cleggy a break. He's just had one.
Yeah, I know. Give him another break as well.
Give him another break.
In terms of deciding to leave Atherton Collieries, he might have felt as though he'd taken them as far as he could, and he might have been hiding behind the excuse of spending more time with his family and his business. But either way, it's his prerogative. He can do what he wants. He's not tied to anybody.
No, he's not. But
Hyde United, by the way,
tough gig.
It's a big club.
It is a big club. I never knocked it for not being one. But he's got a big job on his hands, hasn't he?
Yeah, because where are they? Third from bottom?
Third from bottom right now. Now, admittedly, they are 8 points clear of Workington, who are the bottom. But nonetheless, he's still got to be wary of Stockbridge Park Steels, who are second bottom, but only a point behind Hyde United.
But he does have this good habit of turning relatively poor clubs into decent clubs, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got a bit to work with as well. So they've won 6, drawn 8, and lost 11 of their games. So it's not awful by any stretch of the imagination. They're not adrift. And he's got a game in hand on 2 of the teams above him, Morpeth Town and Leek Town, and there's just 3 points difference between all 3 of them. Okay, so a couple of good results, and he immediately gets himself up to your Prescot Cables area, your upper end of the lower half of the table. So, I feel he can do it. I don't think
What's your feeling on this interim management malarkey, though? Really, it does my head in.
Does it?
As a supporter, and I'm a supporter, don't forget, apart from being chairman of Skem, I actually support non-league football. And I know how frustrating it is as a supporter to think that, we've mentioned it just before, just not knowing whether, a lot of people will be happy by the fact that Clegg's got the interim job, but there'd probably be a lot of them hoping, well, I wish they'd have turned around and said he's got it on a full-time basis.
Yeah, but my notion is that an interim manager kind of carries you through until the end of the season.
And that's it, they're definitely going.
At which point, the board of directors and the chairman can take a proper forensic look at the direction that their club wants to go in. Now, we talked about this on the show a little bit last week with Man United. They've been through so many managers, each of whom has a different style of how they play their football, and it's been in keeping with the philosophy that the club has wanted to go in at the time. So you've had like master tacticians, you've had cultural reboots, you've had serial winners on the grandest stages. And I think with Hyde, and I think with any team that brings in an interim manager, what they need to do is just have a secure head that knows enough about either the club or the league to steer them into safe harbour until they can, decide which direction the club is going to want to go in on the longer term basis.
Well, who goes in? Does Cleggy go into them and say, listen, I'll take you till the end of the season? Or do Hyde turn around to him and say, we want you till the end of the season? Because, to be fair, the first time I've ever, in all the years I've been involved in Skelmersdale United Football Club, for the first time only did I consider taking on Nick Matthews as an interim manager rather than taking on a permanent basis. That was the only time that I'd ever considered that, because the biggest problem, the most complex issue was we were joining a league that we weren't accustomed to. So in terms of having the right management team, it was all about having the experience of those divisions and a little bit more sort of expertise in the Liverpool County Prem. So in terms of, I can understand why a chairman would employ or bring a manager in on an interim basis, because I think that would have suited us better with Nick rather than put him under the pressure of saying, listen, you're here on a permanent basis until you can, sort things out, or it goes one way or the other, doesn't it? It works or it doesn't work. It obviously didn't work for him. But it would have been better for him if he had come in. From his personal perspective, it would have been less pressure for him. It would have been less pressure for me as well, because then you look at this. It's about timings, isn't it? Sometimes it's about, particularly at Hyde, it's difficult, isn't it? Because at non-league level, you lose one person, you tend to lose everyone, don't you? So it's not as structured at non-league level.
No.
So it's a little bit difficult. It's probably a better concept to have an interim manager to buy you more time.
I suppose so.
Because you get plenty of offers. I'll get plenty of offers, and I have done, since Andy Barlow's taken on. But people turn around and say, listen, I could do this for you, could do that for you. Listen, bear me in mind. I tend to avoid them like the plague, because I don't think you should be poaching jobs when managers are already there. I think it's the wrong thing to do. There's a management code of conduct, if there is one. It should be wait until the gig becomes available. But you get an awful lot of people that will offer you their services and say, listen, I'll just come in now and see you out through to the end of the season. You can base me on what you say. Whether Cleggy's gone in there and said, listen, give me the gig until the end of the season. If you like what I've done, take me on permanently. Well, we'll never know, because we don't know what's happened behind closed doors. But either way, listen, we wish Michael all the very best in his new venture with Hyde, and no doubt he'll do a decent job.
I think so.
So listen, we'll move on to, I don't know if this is a controversial issue or not. It seems to be a little bit, but Rob Smethurst has returned to the hot seat at Macclesfield following their exploits in the FA Cup, stating that their club needed a clear figurehead. Now, you would imagine they had a clear figurehead. I didn't think they did. But in terms of when he stepped down, obviously he's the owner of the football club, and somebody else was brought into the chairman's role.
Yeah.
But Well, let's go back to Rob first of all. He was clearly affected by the departure of his friend and former manager, Robbie Savage, last year.
Yep.
That affected him. We've seen that through some of his interviews, because they were friends, and it probably felt as though there was a bit of sort of lack of loyalty involved in the departure, albeit he could understand why Robbie would want to go for a
Jump
team.
up.
Jump up, but not a bigger club, really. Forest Green Rovers, not a particularly bigger club than Macclesfield, is it, potentially?
Oh, I don't know. I think Forest Green, they've had a bit of a run in the Football League, so I'd say that they are one of those teams that could get plenty bigger. Dale Vince is an excellent chairman as well. It's clearly taking this team in the right direction, so I would say so. I'd say it's just a bit bigger. But anyway.
So, listen, they've been quite fortunate in the FA Cup, as we said, but would you assume that Rob's probably a little bit more reinvigorated by the fact that they've had a really decent run in the FA Cup, and
they're still going in it, aren't they? I would say so. Yeah, I think anyone connected with Macclesfield at the minute is probably going through a serious reinvigoration as to how well they're doing, not only in the FA Cup, but also having been promoted to the National League North last season. There's no doubts at all that they're going to stay up. They're in the top half of the table, and they could stay there. They could challenge for the top 5. Sorry, there's so many different avenues that Macclesfield could go in terms of their successes. I think everybody associated with them is having a reinvigoration. My wonderment is whether for Rob he burned out running the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a big love affair, really, isn't it? And sometimes when a relationship comes to an end, obviously there's the giver and the taker, and normally the giver is the one that feels really, really let down. And maybe Rob has felt that, and it's an acrimonious sort of, albeit it wasn't, but probably behind the scenes the feeling is quite acrimonious, and it's like the end of a relationship, somebody that you loved so much, and it's ended. Now they've had this great run in the FA Cup, and he's reinvigorated. It's like a vivacious blonde or brunette has walked through the door, and suddenly his head has turned, and he's thought life is not as bad at Macclesfield as he first thought. Is that a good way of...
That's a reasonable analogy, I suppose. I'd say Ian Holloway probably couldn't find a better analogy than that one for this. So, I think you're probably right. I think Rob's... he's all positives now. But is it right that he gets his name back amongst the centerpieces of Macclesfield?
I think so. He's done all the hard work. He's earned his...
He has earned it.
Yeah, he's earned the right to... maybe that... Listen, I don't know who took over as chairman. I don't really know. But in terms of Macclesfield as a football club, I think Rob was just as popular as Robbie Savage. He was the face of Macclesfield, and I think it had probably lost a little bit of identity. And it was a double whammy, really, because all of a sudden both people have left the fold, albeit he's still there in the background, running the ship, or to a degree. But when two of them had gone, it lost its panache. I said to you, has Macclesfield lost its sex appeal since Robbie Savage had left? Well, it certainly did, but now, because of their exploits in the FA Cup, and of course now John Rooney, who's the manager, it's actually revitalised the whole club, hasn't it?
I think it has.
It's a case of Robbie Who now, isn't it? And I don't know how they're doing, by the way, in the top of the National League, but they sort of faltered a little bit for a screen. Maybe tell me that, but they were doing really, really well at one stage, weren't they? And then
they were. I think they're still there or thereabouts. 6th. They're 6th in the National League.
So they're in the play-off position, but they were doing a lot better than that before, weren't they? They were around about 2nd or 3rd.
There's something like that, yeah. They dropped off a little bit. They are still... They're a point behind 5th, 4th and third. Okay.
How do you think Robbie Savage is feeling now, though? You know, when that third round draw came out and they got Crystal Palace, the FA Cup holders. If I was Robbie Savage, I would be dead jealous. That's like well, yeah. Another analogy here. It's a bit like divorcing your wife, right? And then 6 weeks later or 6 months later, she wins 100 million on the Euro Millions. I mean, you might hate her, but you might be thinking to yourself, should I hung out a little bit longer? I hope Rowena doesn't listen to this.
Good grief, man.
Yeah.
And here's me thinking, she's saying she's going on a date with somebody else. But anyway.
You do get what I'm on about, though. I mean, he must be looking at that now and thinking, I wish I was playing a part.
I don't know. Maybe he is, but you want to think that he's just kind of focused entirely on his own exploits. I mean, Forest Green went out of the FA Cup in the first round, but they lost away at Luton Town. No shame in that. Luton are a good side. But what would you rather do? Would you rather get to the fourth round of the FA Cup as a team who are in the National League North and, you know, to all intents and purposes and with the greatest respect, a bit more of an outside chancer of getting to the playoffs? Or would you be Forest Green and do your best and still in this position that they are, get back in the Football League, which at the minute they're doing everything right?
I think if he gets to the end of the season, he wins the playoffs and he gets promoted back to the Football League, he won't give it up and say to me about what happened at Macclesfield. But I think if he gets to the end of the season, he's knocked out of the playoffs. I think he'll be. He'll be feeling a little bit different. But
maybe. But even so, for me, I think. Yeah, fair enough to Macclesfield. They're having their minute in the sun right now. But if I was Robbie Savage, I'd still be focused on what the job he's doing at Forest Green.
And when is that next round of the FA Cup, by the way? It's not this weekend, is it?
No.
Could it possibly be?
I think it's... Is it 2 weeks' time?
I'm not too sure. I think it's a little bit more spaced out now, isn't it? It was first week in January.
13th of February.
That's right, mid-February, yeah. So listen, best of luck to Macclesfield, and Rob Smethurst, who's done a brilliant job in getting Macclesfield back up the leagues and back into business.
And taking on Keith Andrews' Brentford in the next round, which they should be more happy about.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to leave the first part of the show.
Yep.
In the second part of the show, we will be joined by Trevor Abraham, who's the chairman of Colne FC. So we'll look forward to speaking to him after the break.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to the second part of the Speaking Frankly football show, and a very warm welcome to the co-chairman of Colne FC, Trevor Abraham. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, gents. Thanks for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. So we wanted for someone to come on the show to discuss how to run a football club when there's limited resources and the blood, sweat and tears is kind of the primary and predominant outlay for the running of the club. And obviously you've offered to come on the show and talk about that angle. First of all, how does a co-chairmanship work?
So, as you know, Colne FC has had a difficult time over the past sort of 10 years or so. There's been a number of chairmen or owners that have come in and out of the club, and to give us stability off the pitch, a couple of years ago, Glenn Stock and his business partner at the time, Darren Harrison, came in to stabilise the club. A co-chairman, as it would in any other business, for me, works for the simple reason that it gives you somebody to bounce ideas off, but it also gives you somebody who then looks back at you for stewardship or responsibility or ownership of your decisions that you're making. So currently the situation works where I look after the day-to-day business and running of the club. and Glenn is there as a sounding board with the experience that he's had of the 3 seasons where he's been in charge, and that's kind of how it works at the moment.
Okay.
That's brilliant. Listen, as a fellow chairman, I'd love to have gone down the route of having a sort of co-chairman, because it could be really, really difficult and lonely at times. So it's good to have, like you say, a sounding board.
Yeah, it's volunteers, as we all are in non-league football, or the majority of places. There are some clubs that are slightly different, but volunteers are incredibly difficult to come by. And they're incredibly difficult to come by because it takes so much time. So if you can split that time by splitting a job role or sharing a job role, then that means you're less reliant on a single point of failure or a single individual. So, we do try as much as we possibly can at Colne to have 1 or 2 people, monitoring similar jobs. It doesn't mean you're stepping on each other's toes, but it does give you that little bit of reassurance or assurance that we're all pushing in the same direction. And as I'm sure Frank will know, when you're a single figurehead, that can be difficult because you don't have people to bounce your ideas off.
Mm-hmm. Well, I noted a lot of the sort of top businessmen, when they're discussing their secret to success, they're saying that they've spent years where they've not delegated, and the minute that they started to delegate, they found the fruits of their labour. They found it much easier to run their business when they started delegating, and it's very, very difficult. A lot of football clubs now that are suffering and struggling, particularly non-league football clubs, find it difficult to delegate because everybody's there offering advice. But very few people are coming forward and saying, well, okay, listen, I'll do a little bit more than offer advice.
Yeah, I think, non-league football is a good ideas club. Yeah. Everybody has great ideas. I think a lot of non-league football clubs are run in a very similar fashion. What I would say is that I agree with you where a business and a business owner learns a lot more from delegation, but the reason you learn from delegation is because you're effectively sharing your idea with somebody else. Yeah. I give you an idea, I delegate you the problem, you come back with a solution. 75% of the time, that's the solution that I would have done myself. However, it gives you that assurance again that you're learning together, and I think that's one thing that we can learn in football in general, is that there's a lot of people out there with a huge amount of experience, especially in the non-league pyramid. And I think clubs sometimes are a little bit guilty of trying to reinvent the wheel instead of potentially sharing information with other clubs and learning from mistakes.
Yeah, well, listen, something I picked up on about a year ago when you were asking for sponsorship was that you said, as well as seeking financial help, you had to deal with legacy issues. Now, I'm of an era when I remember Colne Dynamos and the fantastic sides they had back in the late 80s, winning the FA Vars and the triple winning promotions, which took the club from the northwest counties to the very top of the Northern Premier League. I'm just literally assuming here that the legacy issues might have something to do with ground ownership or anything that happened pre sort of 2006.
Yeah, so I only came into the club late 2021. So I'm probably one of the newest members of the board and of the club itself. So there are some legacy issues around ground ownership and ground lease. And a lot of those things, have been solved over the last 18 to 24 months. And I think that legacy is a very tricky word, because legacy can be a ball and chain to stop you moving forward. And I think I listened to your guys' podcast last week when you were talking about the difficulty with trigger happy chairman and trigger happy clubs, because you're chasing the previous or trying to look after the status of northwest counties, for example. And I think sometimes when you when you have a new start, as we had in 96 as Colne FC, it should be taken as just that. And legacy debt or legacy issues or legacy reputation is just that. And sometimes you have to look forwards and stop that legacy from, as great as it is, and we have pictures of the FA Vase winning side around the clubhouse, but we are very much Colne FC.
Yeah,
it's hard, isn't it? Because you know, for you guys, Northwest County Prem, Northern Prem, that they're all still there, and people remember Skelmersdale and they remember Colne and they remember, you know, Nelson previously as being. They remember the legacy, because sometimes it's easier to remember the success than it is to remember the knock-on effect.
Well, I was going to say, sort of further into this conversation, there's definitely similarities between both Skem and Colne, particularly in recent years. Both clubs have been peppered with success to a degree a decade or so ago, only to hit hard times. That probably the biggest worries are obviously the financial woes, a fan base, the fan base that decreases. Slightly different for us because we're playing all our home games at Crosby, but how hard has it been to sort of connect with disenfranchised supporters, particularly as they see a lot of they see Colne as the Colne Dynamos, or they still feel as though they've not sort of detached from the old club?
Yeah, we're incredibly fortunate. We've got a very loyal fan base. Many of those have been around since the inception of Colne FC in 96, and some from longer before. You know, our gates are still good. They're very good for the Northwest Counties. They've won, that's for certain. And they were good last year, even though suffering, 2 relegations in 3 seasons. So the fan base isn't something that we struggle to connect with. And we have gone so far as to file to be a society for community benefit. So we are controlled by the members. We have a members' vote. And, all of our members are regular home and away match visiting fans. So it's really important for us, especially with the geographic area. There isn't, there's Burnley, obviously, there's Nelson, there's Barn Aldrich, there's Padiham. So it's really important for us that the fans stay at the heart of the decisions that we make.
Just going back a little bit, like you actually managed the under-23s, I think, before you took charge of the first team as well. Yeah, I think you did that on an interim basis, didn't you? So, like you said, the current setup was established in 1996. How far does your relationship go back with the club itself?
Yeah, so I came in at the end of 2021. So I came in initially to help out on a coaching basis with the then under-21s. And then we brought in a coach for the under-23s. That unfortunately didn't work out before the season started. So as many of us do, we say we'll do a little bit more. We'll step forward and do a little bit more, and we'll help you out. That then became the full season, which was in the time of Paul Weller and Jerry Harrison, who were running the first team. We were incredibly successful with the under-23s, and a number of those went on to represent the first team. I think we played, it was obviously the season of a particularly bad winter for us, and we ended up with 8 games in 17 days, if memory serves me right, towards the end of the season. One of those games ended up played at Steeton, I think, where the under-23s, 9 of them represented the first team against Cheadle. So it was a great, a really good season and a really good foundation for a player pathway.
And how important is that obviously at this level when finances are not great? There's nobody with deep pockets financing the football club. How do you manage on a day-to-day basis? Do you need to tap into that local sort of stream of talented footballers to keep progressing. Is that the route for Colne?
It's not at the moment. I'll be 100% honest. I think, as with a lot of football clubs, it's the dream. It's the dream to have a player pathway that comes all the way through. We've got an amazing junior setup that starts with the academy at 5 and 6 and goes all the way through to currently, I think, 3 under-18s teams. Under-18 is where it stops at the moment. As I'm sure you can understand, running an under-23s team in the Lancashire League midweek, floodlights, facilities,
expensive for that.
Extra coat. It is very, very expensive, and unfortunately, following the 2 relegations in 3 seasons and extra financial pressures, that under-23 setup has had to take a bit of a back step, and we withdrew from the league this year. It is something we're looking to revisit next year, but again, finances will be the main driver behind that. So we do tap into local talent, but it's not currently the mainstay of our squad.
Yeah, listen, I was going to say the accusation that's thrown at a lot of custodians of a football club is that they don't do enough from the sort of fundraising perspective, but more often than not, it's difficult to find the time. So the balance with work, family, and the simple day-to-day tasks of running a football club are very time-consuming in itself. So how are you and your fellow committee and volunteers dealing with that? How are you managing to bridge the gap in terms of finances and to make this work on a season to season basis? Because once you get relegated, you lose players. It's very, very difficult to attract players without money. And then the inevitable sort of side of that is you end up tumbling back even further, as Skem have, and we've dropped back into the amateur status again.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, and it's a discussion that we have regularly as a committee and as a club, is that whatever decision you make in terms of funding, whether it be, I don't like the word sponsorship, I prefer the word partnership, it has to be sustainable. And I think when you said there, how do you cope on a season-to-season basis, I personally believe that's where a lot of clubs struggle financially. As we all know, fan bases increase with success. Sponsorship and eyes on the club increase with success. So it only goes to say that a couple of relegations, as you quite rightly hit on, are going to hit you financially. And the way that we have built around that is by getting people to buy into us as people and what we're doing for the community, rather than just buying into the club and the results. So what happens off the pitch is key to finances just as much as what happens on the pitch. You look at, take example, a club like Breck Borough. Breck Borough, under Brent Peters' stewardship, has absolutely no right to be where it is. No. From that area and from the financial constraints of being Breck Borough, just as Colne, and just as the success of that club is built on personal relationships, and it's built on under-promising and over-delivering. And that is what Breck Borough has done. And that's when I first came in, and the co-chair was first discussed. The first call I made was to Brent, and I sat down with him for 3 hours up at Breck and said, how are we going to make this work? And it was free advice, and I'll always be very thankful to him for it. And he said it will rise and fall on the relationship. It won't rise and fall by success or failure on the pitch.
With that in mind, then, Trevor, if the relationships are falling, so to speak, in a kind of a worst case theory point of view, As a board of directors, and I suppose to yourself as a co-chairman, is there any notion under which you have to put your hand in your pocket to ensure Colne continue to be sustainable, or are you just kind of adapting your plans for community access?
Yeah, you have to adapt your plan for community access. I think that there are clubs out there that chairman or sporting directors or commercial directors will put their hand in their own pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I have a business, and sometimes we put our hand in our own pocket to make our business grow. But that's not sustainable, is it? It's not. It's only sustainable for as long as that person wants to put their hand in their pocket.
Sure.
So, one thing that we have said over the last 2 seasons is that we will not live outside of the budget. We will not live outside of our means. And the priority on and off the pitch has to be the survival of the football club to a point where it is sustainable.
I know
that it sounds kind of really obvious, but you can get carried away with what happens on the pitch and what I call the sexy side of football, but it can lead you down a rabbit hole and eventually you're chasing the dream that potentially your pockets and your sponsorship, partnership, and your finances just can't sustain.
We're probably in a better position than we've been when we were in the sort of non-league pyramid, if you like, now, because we've actually got money in the bank that where we would have normally spent it on players in the past. We're not spending because we've never gone into. I don't think we've ever gone into a season where we've had money in the bank where we could say, well, we know what our budget is going to be like next season. Have you got to that stage now where you run a budget so tight that you know it's going to last until the end of the season, and then at the end of the season you draw up your next plan for the season afterwards? Or have you got yourselves ahead of the game? Or have you got yourself a season or two ahead of yourselves?
No, so we're not a season ahead. Last season, we had a change of managerial control early on in the season, and Andy Harrison and Brothers came in 13 or 14 games into the season. One of the things that we sat down with the two gentlemen when they came in was that financial control sits with the club. This is the budget, and we cannot afford to increase it. So whilst we might want success off the pitch, we have to manage expectations. And I know there's a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about who's paying what and who's got what kind of budget. But if I'm totally honest, as a board, it's really irrelevant to me, because the survival of Colne FC will only be assured if we stay within budget. So we took 3 seasons worth of data, financial data. We stripped away what we thought were unrealistic targets. So, for example, as a club, you've got your gate money. You've got your gate money, you've got your bar money, you've got your cafe money. Okay, so what was your highest gate, what was your lowest gate? Get rid of those 2 straight away, because you're not going to get crowds playing Bury at home every week, but you're also not going to get 45 people on a Tuesday night at home to AFC Blackpool. So we took an average across that, and then we knocked 15% off that, and we called that the average gate. We then worked out the average cost, and then that gives us a figure that we expect, that we are pretty certain will come through that gate most weeks. We then did the same with the bar, and then to give ourselves a cushion, we took the money that the food makes, and we took that out of the budget completely. So we knew that taking an average across the last 3 seasons, the budget that we chose was sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know a lot of teams over the course of their histories have speculated. I know a lot of clubs that have made big mistakes and expected to get to the third qualifying or the fourth qualifying round of the FA Cup, and they've actually thrown that amount of money into their budget, which is absolute suicide.
Well, I mean, if I can completely understand it. But, is that an element of getting carried away by the exciting part? Cup runs are just that, aren't they? Cup runs are cup runs. It's called a cup run because you don't do it every season. Yeah. And if you overspend from success or overspend chasing success and it doesn't come off, the costs don't disappear. So you've still got your overheads, and it's going to hit your facilities. It's going to hit your first team, it's going to hit your ladies team. If you've got a ladies team, it might hit your under 23s, which then tumbles down, and into your junior pathway or whatever you might be. But the first things it's going to hit is facilities, and things like floodlight bulbs, for example. £350, £400 for a floodlight bulb.
That's ridiculous.
If you lose a bulb in the northwest counties, you can't play. Oof. And then you're on 2 o'clock kickoffs, and then Burnley are at home. So Burnley are at home in a 3 o'clock kickoff, and Colne FC are now at home in a 2 o'clock kickoff. And Padiham are at home, and Barn-Oldswick are at home.
Yeah.
And if Colne aren't being as successful on the pitch as Barn-Oldswick and Padiham, then sometimes the guys that might just come and watch Colne because Padiham are away or Burnley are away, you've lost them to potentially what is seen as a better quality game somewhere else or a more exciting game.
We've heard of a few of our players a few of our supporters going to not support Prescot, but going to watch Prescot because we're further away and we're not doing particularly well. So it does have it
does have a knock-on effect.
And I think that's it, isn't it? Something. Every decision that we make has in football or non-league football has a knock-on effect. And if that decision is we can hang on for that floodlight bulb, or we can hang on for this, or we can spend that FA Cup money to bring in a striker or bring in a bigger budget or whatever, you've got to try and look past that. Because at the end of the day, if Colne FC goes out of business or continues to slide, then that affects the whole community. It doesn't just affect a football club. It affects the people who, maybe visit Colne FC for the social side, or who visit it because it's a safe space for them or a warm space for them. It's not just about coming watching a game of football.
But it's very, very difficult to speculate, isn't it? I know you said there that you look at your average gate and then you knock 15% off. But what makes Colne Football Club, or certainly you as a custodian, what makes you panic? You've just mentioned there a floodlight bulb goes. If more than one goes, 2, then you've got £600, £700, £800 bill. At what point do you panic, even though you've been as very careful with the pennies as you can be? What point do Colne Football Club start panicking again?
It's a good question. I'm very fortunate. I think last year we had, I wouldn't say it was a panic, but my heart certainly skipped a couple of beats before Christmas. And I looked and I thought, okay, I think the first time I panic, and I'll be genuinely honest, the first time I panic is when the fixtures come out.
Yeah.
And I'll have a look, and this season I looked and I said, okay, 4 home games on the bounce. Right, okay, that's good. But that means that somewhere we're going to have 4 away games on the bounce.
Yeah.
So that's 4 weeks with no income. So how do we keep the 4 weeks? And then if you lose one of those fixtures, one of your home fixtures, or the crowd isn't what you're expecting, then that's another little... So I think the fixtures is the first thing for me. It's not a panic, but it helps me and the treasurer and the secretary and the rest of the board kind of draw a line in the sand and say, I think, based on our projections and based on evidence, because you've got to use evidence.
Yeah.
It's no good being I think this will happen.
Yeah. So if you get off to 4 good wins at the beginning of the season, then your projections are slightly higher then, aren't they? You're above your original projections, so it feels a little bit better. If you don't win those games, then you start worrying about decreased attendances, and then you start to panic a little bit more, I would imagine.
Yeah, and you can also look across. The North West Counties website is great. You can have a look, and I can look at what Padiham are doing. I can look at what Barn Oldswick are doing and Nelson are doing. And if 2 of those clubs have got 3 away games at the beginning of the season, then there's a little bit of a chance that my gate's going to be boosted a little bit. One of the things we've looked at in the past at Colne FC is Friday night football. We're in an area that is swamped with opportunities to go and watch live football. So potentially move Colne home games to a Friday night. That doesn't always work, but if you can do that 2 or 3 times in a season and get a bumper gate, I think Atherton Coles did it last year, and saw quite a big increase in their gates. So there's thinking out of the box as well, isn't there? To try and come up with things. But then again, like I say, don't try and reinvent the wheel, because all these things have been tried and you're only a couple of phone calls or a couple of emails away from, look, I've seen this has worked for your club, give me an idea how you did it. Or I'm looking at doing this, and the club may well come back and say, no, don't bother, you're wasting your time. But if we don't share information, and if we don't communicate with other clubs, because at the end of the day, whether we've got 18 teams in the North West Counties Div 1 or 20 or 22, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that we keep those clubs there and we don't see clubs fall out of business. Last season was particularly bad, and I think a lot of teams are still struggling financially from the knock-on of COVID.
I think you're probably right. Trevor, talk to me through the integrations that you've got with partnerships and with the local community. I know that you've got a really good relationship with is it Hafner Eats that you've got one with, but in terms of kind of the other areas of where partnership can be generated, how do you manage that? So
the current Hafner's agreement was brought in by Glenn Stock under Hafner's Pies through a business connection. We work really well with the guys at Hafner's, and it's the difference between partnership and sponsorship. So it's very simple to write a template email and go on to biz.gov and find the 50 biggest businesses within 5 miles of Colne and send them all an email.
We've all done
That's
that.
really easy. Really easy. Or create a WhatsApp group or a WhatsApp address list and send everybody a message. But that goes back to the old days of dropping leaflets through doors.
Ineffective.
You get a 1% return, you've spent a huge amount of time for absolutely nothing.
It's more cost effective through WhatsApp though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, very much so. And that comes back to what I said slightly earlier, it was Ben Metcalf, our company secretary, our club secretary, came in with this, in the close season, is we need to get people to buy into us as people and then buy into the club second. And that again comes back to under promising and over delivering.
I've always said you have to build those relationships very, very early on in your tenure. So you've been there for a few years now. I always sort of plan ahead. So when I'm communicating with people now, I know that those relationships are going to build up. And I'm not... It sounds as though you're sort of anticipating that something will happen further down the line, but I think building those relationships up and making them feel a part of the football club before they actually part with any money, and even sometimes then it's not so much about parting with the readies, it's getting the expertise from some of these people as well, because they can pass on an awful lot of knowledge to you.
Yeah, one of the first kind of strap lines that I wrote down when I came in, and I started, putting my feet on the road to go and get partnership, was, look, I don't want your money. What I want is access to your contacts.
Yeah.
And I want to build something with you as part of this community. You know, ideally, I would like to walk up Colne High Street and I'd like to see a Colne FC sticker or a Colne FC shirt in every single high street shop.
Yeah.
And that doesn't cost money. But what that does then is people who visit Colne, or people who maybe don't know that Colne FC exists, because in any town there are people who don't know they have a local football team.
Yeah, it always surprises me that, like, but...
that was me.
Well, you know what I'd say to you is, I agree and I disagree, but going back years ago when we were at Stormy Corner, I simply put a message up on the front page of I got a really good price on the front page of the local newspaper, and I just basically put FA Cup second qualifying round, Skelmersdale United Football Club versus Prescot. That game would have probably attracted around about 250 people, but the fact that I actually put it on the front of this newspaper and asked for people to contact the tickets office to secure their tickets. We had a gate over it. I think it was 1,002 officially, but there was probably about another 300 climbed over the 6-foot fence. But it was really effective. So people know where we are when they want something.
Yeah, and I think if you turn that comment around and look at it from a football club perspective, the sponsor or the partner could turn around to you and say, you know where we are when you need us.
Yeah.
So as much as we've got to link with the community so that they know where we are, the partner has also got to know where we are, and we've got to know where they are. I don't want to be the kind of club who just go and knock on a door and say, give me your money. Because that's not sustainable. And not only is it not sustainable, but it's not the right way to do things.
No.
You know, we've got a number of, and also you talked about, you know, keeping relationships open. We've got a particular sponsor who left us at the end of last season, and they weren't going to come back. But we've got a very positive relationship with the brand manager of this particular partner, you know, and because of that personal relationship, it's possible to get that person to buy back into you. You know, and the deal might change, the exposure might change slightly. We might give a little bit more for a little bit less, but over time you build those relationships, and as you say, it's not necessarily the readies that you want. You know, if Karen, our social media lady, puts a post out and it's shared by every single one of our partners, or she tags in every single one of our board sponsors, then you're going from 6,000, you know, audience to 60,000. And that might not produce anything, but it's not a huge amount of work for the potential. And I think that's the most important thing in non-league football and in football altogether, is you've got to have an eye on the potential, but you've got to be realistic of how you get there.
But the building of those relationships is time-consuming. I said it before. A lot of supporters think that, like you said, they're all great at giving ideas, but actually putting them into place and acting upon them are more difficult the less time you've got to do. How much time of your life does it cost? How much of your time do you invest into the football club?
It depends if you ask me or my wife.
Yeah, well, I'm in a similar position here, but yeah, go on.
Me too.
In all fairness, on a daily basis, probably around 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. You sound very much like myself. It's a full-time job. Well, when you actually work it out, if you were actually to sit down and actually work out the time that you spent on it, it'd probably be a lot longer than you actually think. because you spend a lot of time just talking to people about and it mightn't necessarily lead to anything at all, but you're actually talking to people, you're actually answering your phone, or you're on WhatsApp groups, and all of that time has a value on it as well. So yeah, it takes an exceptionally long time to get anything going, but then when you've got limited access to volunteers and such like, and maybe a small band of loyal committee members, the workload is literally spread very thinly to one or two people at the football club, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very small group of volunteers at Colne FC, and volunteers is exactly what we all are, and whilst I might be able to spend, a couple of hours in the morning before work, and now it's, in the evening after work, I might be able to spend another couple of hours doing that. But the only reason that I can do that is because I don't work anywhere near home. So, on a Monday or a Tuesday, if there's a Tuesday game, I'll hang around on the Tuesday. On a Wednesday, I'll drive from Accrington down to Essex, and I'll start my working week. Now, my working week is long days, but I don't have anything to do at night. So I can spend a couple of hours working on the club in the morning and 3 or 4 hours at night. But then I have to manage the expectations at the weekend when I'm back with the family. So it's balancing all the time, but you have to be... I'm quite a process-driven person. I work... within the governance and within the boundaries that I set myself, and if I can get things done in a day, I'll get them done. But if I can't get them done, I won't lose any sleep over it, because at the end of the day, there are only so many hours that you can put in, and if people can be a little bit guilty sometimes of burning themselves out in non-league football, or sometimes you'll hear people say, if you want a job doing, do it properly. Well, if you want a job doing, teach somebody how to do it.
Listen, AJ and I know from our own perspective the mental and physical strain running the football club has upon all of us. What impact is it having on? And listen, we'll talk about it a little bit further. You are sort of the custodian, the founder of Brave Faces UK, which concentrates on men's mental health. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But in terms of the physical and mental strain it's had on you running the football club, how is it affecting you?
I'm not going to say it doesn't. It does. There are sleepless nights. Those sleepless nights can be caused by results on the pitch. They can be caused by, issues off the pitch. We mentioned the floodlights. The floodlights last season caused me and Ben and the rest of the board many sleepless nights. I guess it's quite difficult. To put a statement behind it. I hope that I'm a strong enough person that if it was affecting me too much, I would say so and put things in place. But there's no doubt, let's face it, a football club is a business.
Yeah.
Running any business is stressful. Running a football club or being a custodian of a football club, because that's what we are. I'm currently a custodian of a football club, and I'm keeping a seat warm until somebody comes in and wants to take that seat from me, or I think they can do a better job, or whatever it may be. And it's going to be stressful. It's hard to put a number on it, but it is stressful, incredibly stressful at times. But again, stress can be reduced by getting the right people around you.
Which you're obviously trying to do, and it sounds as though you're being fairly successful at the moment. In terms of sailing, listen, we all sail, even with good house management, we all sail pretty close to the wind. We just try not to sail too close to trouble, and that's how we sort of get through. But in terms of, we're talking about Brave Faces UK, which you're the founder of. which concentrates on mental health, men's mental health. Tell us a little bit more about that and how important this subject is now, particularly to you when you're dealing with people like committee supporters, volunteers, and young footballers, of course, because we're hearing an awful lot about young footballers that are being released from, Premier professional football clubs. I've had to take that step down into non-league football club or even amateur football, and the huge effect it's had on their mental health.
Yeah, I think the key word is pressure, isn't it? Pressure. Pressure over the last 10 or 15 years has increased to an unbelievable. Well, it's believable because it happens, but to levels that I certainly, as a 30-year-old guy, never thought would happen. There's a lot of things. There's the pressure of social media. There's the pressure of success versus failure. You only learn by failing. Successful people have failed 5 times already. There's a lot of pressure for people to succeed. Taking the young footballer example, a young footballer who is maybe on the verge of signing a pro contract, who gets a freak injury or has a run of bad form, can within 3 or 4 months find himself playing Saturday afternoon football at Colne FC in front of 150 people. And that's something that we've seen over the last 2 seasons. Communication is key, being open and honest is key, and being transparent is key. I've had some pretty difficult times in my life, and I know a lot of people who've had a lot worse times than I have. But the only way to get around those times is to talk about it. The old adage of man up and get on with it doesn't exist.
No, and listen, I'm actually 58 years of age, so I'm nearly double your age, and AJ's the same age as you. You're 30, aren't you?
30, yeah.
Yeah, 30 years of age.
Trevor, I don't think Trevor is 30. Trevor, how old are you?
I'm 47.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said you were...
No, it was when he said he was a 30-year-old man.
Oh, sorry, when you were a 30-year-old man. So listen, you're 47. I'm from an era when I was growing up and going through school when I couldn't take computer studies as an option because it was only just coming out. I was a year too young for that to kick in. So from that perspective, social media now, as I look at it back, I look at the pressures we had back then and the pressures that we have now, and I think, yes, social media now is having a huge impact on everyone's lives. It's this falsehood, isn't it? We see an awful lot of positivity on Facebook. We see people having, really good holidays, seem to be having really nice times, going out, buying new clothes, a woman wearing a fancy new dress, going to a party or going out at the weekend, and everything looks hunky-dory. And then there's the other side of that. We talk about our successes more than we talk about our failures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that social media has potentially done is over-connected us. We're more connected with the outside world than we've ever been, but we're possibly more disconnected from ourselves and from maybe the people that we should be connected to. It's very easy, isn't it, as you say, to scroll through Facebook when you wake up in the morning. There are all sorts of design engineers behind Facebook and behind X and behind LinkedIn that know that's what time you wake up, and they will slowly drip feed you, the little red notification bell for the next 40 minutes, and that's designed to keep you flat on your back in bed reading social media. Mm-hmm. Is that a great start to the day? I don't know. I know what my view is on it, but that's false connection, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who will, and I've done it sometimes. You can use social media in a very positive way. You can see something that somebody's doing or done, who may be a friend or a former colleague, and reach out to them and have an actual conversation. And that was started by social media. But then you're having an actual conversation or agreeing to meet up for a coffee or go out for a pint or a game of golf or whatever it may be. So it's about exposure, isn't it? We're very exposed with an Instagram account and a Facebook account and an X account And we just got to be careful. We just got to be careful with levels of exposure, I think.
But we've also hit on there that it could be a good tool to help improve mental health, and particularly football as well. I mean, we've spoken to a lot of people on this show, and they say their greatest successes are not so much the people that they've tried to sort of progress in football, but it's after they've learned the life skills of being part of a team and building relationships, have gone on to have successful careers in other areas. So football can sort of help redeem and help people that are struggling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no greater environment than being part of a team. And if that team is successful, then that's an even better environment. However, on the flip side of that, if a team is struggling, there are opportunities there to bond and as you say, learn life skills. Learn to be a leader, learn to be a better communicator, learn to make better decisions. Or learn the skill of how to make a decision and the knock-on effects of that decision, and you take that then, as you say, into your work life or into a future career. And that there are some some pretty impressive stories of former footballers who've gone on to take those skills and been incredibly successful.
Without a shadow of doubt. Listen, I just want to go a little bit sort of further back before we finish off, really. But you're talking about the legacy issues with the football club, and then you mentioned the inclement weather and games getting called off and what have you. And we know we've been down to Colne before, and it can be unforgiving in terms of weather, and it can get really saturated really quick. And we've seen how hard the groundsman has to work there. But in terms of those legacy issues, is there a situation where the football club might be able to be more sort of financially efficient by bringing in a plastic pitch at some stage in the future?
So yeah, there's been talk of plastic pitches and stadium rebuilds in the past. One of the limiting factors for that for Colne FC, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the geography. There's only one road in and one road out.
Oh yeah, I'm well familiar. I go to York quite often, and I go down the M50, M65, and then I come off and go through Colne. I forever regret it if I go at the wrong time of the day. Yeah, it's really difficult, the traffic.
So if you add on top of that the access then to the Hafner's Eats at Holt House itself, again, is one road in and one road out.
Yeah.
Plastic pitches, stadium rebuilds, they take time. They take a lot of heavy plant. They take a lot of disruption. And whilst it may, in the longer term, be better for the football club and better for the community, you have to have the infrastructure in place and be realistic about what is achievable before you get carried away with the, how brilliant it could be. And sometimes there's a middle ground to be found. That access to grant funding through the grass pitch scheme or the pitch maintenance scheme. That there's no reason why a grass pitch can't be good. Again, part of you budgeting, how much are you going to spend on the pitch every year? If we spent a little bit more last year, can we spend a little bit less? Looking ahead towards the forecast, when can we schedule the verti drain or the verti cut? When can we schedule? And these are constant decisions that go through a board's head or a chairman's head, as you know, and a groundsman's head. Because you have to make the best of what you've got. Yes, I'd love a plastic pitch. I'd love a flat pitch. That would help. But and I'm sure Andy Harrison would love a flat pitch. Yeah. But again, can you make the pitch? Can you make the stadium? Can you make the atmosphere, the environment, the view? How do you make that strong enough for Colne FC to bring in new partners, to bring in great people across the gate? I would strongly argue that Colne FC has one of the best views in non-league football.
Oh, listen, without a shadow of doubt. I love going up there. We went up the season before last when Pascal Chimbonda was the manager, and the first game that we were scheduled to play at Holt was postponed. We'd actually got to the ground and the referee called it off because there was just one spot on the pitch, I think, and it was down by the. So if you're going into the stadium, it was down the bottom right end, which I think is a particular concern for the football club when the inclement weather comes along. So we ended up having to. The season was extended a week longer, and we played. I think we played the week after the season had finished. I think you beat us as well, but I think Pascal Chiambonda might have been playing that day as well. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think that's quite early on in my time, but yeah, I certainly remember it. The season where the weather hit us and it was extended. That area of the pitch that you talk about with the slope from left to right and high to low is always a concern. But Richard, our groundsman, is. Fiercely dedicated is an understatement.
I've met him, really nice bloke, and he is. I mean, if it's the same one that was back a couple of years ago, then yeah, fabulous guy.
Yeah, and it's non-league football is built on the hearts and souls of volunteers and of people.
Characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Colne FC, as we are now and as we may be in the future, exists because people give up their time, and that's the bit that gets missed, isn't it? Mm. Volunteers open the bar, they work the gate, they mark the pitch, they put the nets up, and then when the floodlights have gone off, or they're about to go off at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night, they reverse engineer all that to put it all back to how it was. Mm. And they do it because they care about the club and they care about the town and they care about being able to go and watch football in Colne or Nelson or Barn Aldrich. Mm-hmm. The difference between having a football club and not having one lies on the shoulders of the volunteers. The rest of us, the finances, it's all really important, but without people, there's no football club. Mm. And that's the same in any business. Without people, there's no business. So when you sit in a chair as a custodian and you're keeping it warm until the next person, it's not control. It's stewardship. You're looking after something that belongs to the town and belongs to the people and belongs to somebody who played for Colne FC 20 years ago, just as much as it belongs to the 8, 9 or 10-year-old child that's coming to their first game. So it's, I'm sure a lot of chairmen and a lot of custodians of football clubs would say the same. And it sounds easy and a little bit cliche to say, but I think that's the reality that we have to hold on to.
Well, I think you said it earlier on. People come up to your supporters with ideas that you've already exhausted. They think it's a new idea, and they're trying to be as helpful as they possibly can. But nobody puts the mileage in that chairman and the committee do, and the volunteers, like you say. So listen, just sort of sum it up and coming towards the end of the interview. Really, what is the plan in the next 5 years for Colne? Where do you see Colne being in 5 years' time?
So the question I always ask myself is, what does good look like?
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Because success is something that we'll always chase. So if I was to look at Colne Football Club and say, Colne Football Club is a good club, what does that look like? And I think, obviously, of course, the results matter because it's football, but they're not the only measure of success. So for me, if Colne FC is financially stable, if we're welcoming and a part of the community, if we're honest, and if we're here for the next generation, then we're doing our job properly. At the end of the day, the club exists to serve the town, not the other way around.
Now, listen, we've learned that survival in the northwest counties, as difficult as it is, and sometimes we're very, very critical of the division that we're in, but sometimes we've got to reflect on that and think it's not such a bad... We certainly know now from playing in the Liverpool County Premier League how much we miss the northwest counties, and we were at times very, very critical of the stewardship of the counties at times, but realising the hard work and effort that goes in now more so by the custodians of the league in comparison to where we are now. And even though we know they're putting in an awful lot of effort, it's just that there's less volunteers. The further down the ladder you go, the less volunteers, the less supporters, and the less finances you've got. It's a really, really difficult battle. It's a difficult battle.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if there is an answer. Be grateful for what you've got. Strive to step to the next level, but make sure that if you do it's achievable. There are so many clubs who chase success. As you said earlier, throw the FA Cup money or throw the FA Vars money at next season and let's see how we get on. But if the results don't come on the pitch, then off the pitch it's very easy to quickly become chaotic. But the costs and the expectation is still there, isn't it? So
the expectation's definitely still there. I think we've mentioned it numerous times now. It's the biggest worry is the dilution of non-league football, which we're forever going on about. There's really good success stories there, but there's a lot of clubs that have replaced clubs with proud histories, and some could end up. We've certainly seen it before. They've gone to the wall. We talk about Rossendale as an example. We feel as though the dilution of football is giving way to some of the. It's preventing some of the clubs from continuing their history.
Yeah, I agree. I think last season was particularly bad. There were a number of not high-profile clubs, but certainly high-profile stories of clubs going out of business. Mm-hmm. As I said earlier, I think the knock-on of the season lost from COVID is somewhat to count for that. Clubs will evolve. Clubs will find success, pockets of success. Some clubs will find sustained success. For us at Colne FC, I'm not going to say there always has to be a desire and there has to be a dream. But don't give yourself a nightmare chasing your dream.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to keep floating, isn't it? And that's what we're 100%. Trying to do at Skem. It's quite apparent that's what you're trying to do there at Colne. Listen, best of luck for that. Listen, just a quick one. Have I got it right? Are you a pilot?
No, I'm not. So I am I'm helicopter technical crew.
Oh, right.
Wow.
So we have a company who provide technical crew to operations globally for things like search and rescue and oil and gas operations and that kind of thing.
Oh, nice one.
Amazing.
Okay, brilliant.
If I was a pilot, I'd have told you in the first sentence.
You'd be blowing your own horn there.
Yeah. Exactly. Listen, Trevor, best of luck. I know you're at the sort of wrong end of the table now, but I think you've got enough points to get yourselves clear of that and add to that success and get yourself further up the table. And there's not a great deal of difference, as we've said, between where you are and the playoffs even. So listen, best of luck for the rest of the season and for the future. And it's nice to get an insight from another chairman that's working hard but have got realistic ambitions rather than trying to get yourself...
dream.
Yeah, like you say, chasing silly dreams.
No, thank you very much for your time, gents, and wish you all the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you very much,
Take
Trevor.
care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now.
Cheers, gents.
Hello and welcome to the third and final part of the Speaking Frankly football show. Really, really good interview there with Trevor Abraham, the co-chairman at Colne FC, and a good insight into a hard-working club that are not getting any gifts, they're not getting any lifts, they're having to They do it all on hard work, sweat and tears.
Blood and sweat and tears, yeah, absolutely. We hear a lot about the glamour of what a chairman can bring in terms of finances and steering the ship in the right direction, but I think Trevor's angle just goes to show that not every chairman is going to come in with bucketfuls of money to throw at first-class investiture into his team, and he's got to chase his dream in other ways. So a huge thank you to Trevor for his time and his insight, and a very best wishes to Colne for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's always nice to get a good sort of insight from the from any club, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, any club has a different angle into how they approach things, but I think his notion of being community minded to a point where it self-serves everybody is enormous. I think he has probably the same kind of arrangement with Hafner Pies as what we do with Tord Valley. You know, yeah. It's a massive staple of how the club is going to go, and the direction it's going to go in. And you know, embedding that relationship within the core values of how the club is going to run is only going to serve to be beneficial for both of them moving forward.
Yeah, brilliant. And listen, we come to that part of the show where we'll discuss Skelmersdale United Football Club, and then we'll go through our predictions for the week ahead.
Yes, we will.
And then we'll sort of tot up the results and see who got all the predictions. Well, got the best of the predictions.
Yeah.
So we'll start at Skelmersdale United Football Club. Yeah. Disappointing result for us.
Deeply disappointing result for us. Down at... oh, God, where were we?
Yeah, we were down there, weren't we?
We were in Fazakerley.
We were at the... God, I forget what it's called. Jeffrey Humble.
Jeffrey Humble, that's it. I knew about the Daphne.
The Jeffrey Humble.
I keep thinking it's the Brian Boys Westview, but that's in Baco.
I know, yeah. Well, listen, it wasn't... listen, arguably there was too many changes in the team, which didn't help. But
quite a fair few of them reinforced.
Yeah, little probably one or two mistakes that we rectify over the next few weeks.
I think so. Yeah, I think every game is a learning curve at this stage in the season. We are particularly with technically us still rebuilding our squad to being something of consistency. It's our second rebuild in 2 years, 3 if you count the North West Counties Premier Division season that we had as well. So we can justify it to a reasonable degree, but I think there was another element to the game where the players just didn't have a good day.
Yeah, and what I would say is that I think what I noted from watching a lot of Premier League football on the TV these days, but they get an awful lot of time on the ball. You just don't get that level of time on the ball in any level, sort of Northwest Counties and below.
No, we really struggle to kind of hold on to the ball for a good amount of time as
well. The difference between us and them was that they didn't give up, did they? They were like... Duracell bunnies. They were just popping up everywhere.
They were really fit, probably as fit a team as what we faced this season.
I don't think. Arguably, I think the fitness didn't play a big part in it. I just thought we felt as though we could have more time on the ball, and we didn't adjust to that. And we need to have that sort of Klopp mentality where that when we lose possession, we try to get it back as quick as we can, and we seem to be like second, third. We're thinking. Too much thinking time before we actually exercise what we're doing, and that's no great criticism on them. It's part of their learning curve because a lot of these players are really young and they need to learn from those mistakes. I didn't think they were a East Villa. I didn't think they were considered in third place. I think for the first half, I think we gave them a run for the money.
We did give them a run.
There was nothing in the. There was nothing in the final third.
No.
We were cutting into traffic.
Yeah.
We weren't getting wide and delivering the crosses. And probably didn't really have the personnel to put it off up front either. I think we missed Toby Taylor and Michael Ledbetter up front. Sort of the only shining spot was Ello making his debut. He really worked hard.
Yeah, Neil Allison came on. He started up front on on his debut, had a couple of good chances through his run on the pitch. I think he had about 70 minutes or 75 minutes, something like that one. And he knows as well that he could have and probably should have put them away, but on another day they find the net. I think we had a substantial off day where unfortunately East Villa probably didn't take their foot off the pedal for the entirety of the time that they were ahead. I think they were quite lucky to go in ahead in the first half. I think it was a couple of really unfortunate mistakes that we'd made that kind of handed them at least two of the goals that they had. We got ourselves back in through Leighton Rimmer's header, but we conceded 2 minutes afterwards. So
we're trailing 3-1 at half time.
We are.
It's fair to say that two of those decisions were made by the linesman, who's way off pace. He had an unbelievably bad game, and I don't mind saying charges pending or whatever. But to me, he looked as though he was in sort of the twilight of his life. And I've seen faster. I've seen faster assistant referees on Zimmer frames. I've really got to be honest with you. He was shocking. He was absolutely awful. He wasn't even in line, so he couldn't judge whether they were offsides or not.
No.
And basically, I think, did he give a penalty? Was it a penalty? I can't remember. Was it a penalty?
No,
it wasn't a penalty. Take my notice. I've forgotten. I'm thinking of another game now.
Yeah.
But shockingly, the level of officiating.
That one was particularly bad. Yeah, we've had difficult linesmen or difficult referees and what have you, but to see someone who was just clearly 3 paces be off the game in and these things matter.
Did you see where he was doing his run?
He was running between halfway for about 10 yards, and that was it.
Yeah, but did you see where he was? He wasn't actually on the byline. He was about 5 foot, 6 foot in front of it.
Okay.
So he's actually on the pitch when he was running up down the line.
No, I didn't notice.
I don't know why he did that.
No.
I never asked him why. But yeah, I think it was shocking, and I think I don't think we got any help from him at all in the first half, and that could have made a huge difference. In response to that, I don't think we didn't do enough in the final third, so I'm not going to make excuses for that.
No,
I still felt as though we were in the game
to a degree.
At half time, we'd got a quick goal second half, then we might have made a fight of it. But in fairness,
we stopped fighting.
We stopped fighting. So by the time it got to 4-1, I had to leave for family reasons.
Yeah, you did.
I believe they capitulated after that anyway.
Yes, it ended in a 7-1 defeat. I think 2 or 3 of those goals came in the final 10 minutes of the game as well, which made it even more frustrating.
So a lot of lessons to be learned.
A hell of a lot of lessons.
And we've got them again this Saturday.
And
so
we have them again this
at
Saturday.
home at the Marine Travel Arena Stadium. That is a 3 o'clock kickoff. If you can make it, that would really appreciate it. The more people up there, the better for us. Let's try and cover the costs, at least of the officials, which would be nice, because everything else is quite costly. But listen...
Quite.
Yeah, so we need to learn. I don't know whether we go... Listen, we started with 3 at the back again, which was absolute suicidal. We waited until we were 2-0 down before we went to 4 at the back. Lessons to be learned again there. We just cannot do that. The lads just don't know how to pull off a 3 at the back.
No, it's a really niche formation. You need a lot of practice in there to be able to do it.
You need a lot of coaching, and there's no time for it.
No, there isn't. We've got teams who play 3 at the back and they're coached twice a week, 3 times a week, something like that. We just don't have that. We have 1-2 hour window on a Wednesday night to be able to put this into practice.
And with not enough people turning up to train either, which is still a big problem. Not as bad this Wednesday.
Okay.
Relatively good turnout, but then you can't work on shape, or you can't do anything. You can't work on anything. It's really, really difficult when you don't get enough people coming out to try. And we take it on board. A lot of these people are travelling. They live in Liverpool or elsewhere. I mean, we had couple of players that lived over towards Chorley. They've gone now, Sam Wood and Harvey Biggs. So we've had players that have travelled from areas, and you're expecting a lot of players that are not getting paid. So they're having to finance their own fuel, which you can understand. So you can understand why players want to leave. But also, on disappointing side of things, of course, is Toby Taylor's left. I didn't know whether they got the chance to tell you, but he's decided to play football more locally to him. I'm really disappointed with that because I like Toby.
I do.
He's improved no end. I've communicated with him since he's made his decision. Understand why he's making it. I just wish he'd have, hung on a little bit longer, given us till the end of the season to see where we're going. But he's another bloke travelling from Ashton.
Yeah, he is.
Twice a week, once to training, once to to a game.
Yeah.
We have to accept that.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're losing, listen, it plays a big part.
It's hard to hold on to players when you're losing.
It plays a big effect on your mental health.
It does. Yeah, the stresses of losing a game.
Well, we all want to be happy, don't we? At the end of the day, we understand that.
Yeah.
We understand that, and that's why if more people come to watch us, then the greater the finances and the greater things we can do them further down the line, and it's nice to have an audience. And I think we had about 60 at the last home game, which wasn't bad.
Not terrible.
But if we could average around about 100. And get a bit of vocal support, and the lads know that they're getting supported well, then that might boost their confidence a little bit. But like I say, we've got them again on Saturday. Like I say, 3 o'clock kickoff. What do you reckon? 4-3-3, 4-5-1, 4-4-2. What would you be playing?
If I was game manager?
Yeah.
I'd be playing a 4-4-2.
4-4-2.
Yeah, I think at the minute, and I've always said this, you can look back into any of the shows, when we've been talking about this, you have to have the defence sorted out before you can begin to look at how you're going to win a game.
Yeah.
So the structure of how you're going to be defensively has to, for me, be the priority. So that's what I'd be looking at first. If you get the defence sorted, everything else can kind of be addressed later. Make us a hard team to break down and beat. Yeah,
and consistency, of course. We've got to keep with sort of key personnel and stop chopping and changing. Now we've tried the experiments. Now we've got to develop the youth that we've got.
Yeah.
And take more of a look at next season rather than this, because as we know, as well as King Harry, I think we mentioned it on last week's show, Daysbrook have left the league.
Yeah.
So that leaves us down to 12. There's no chance of relegation as far as I'm aware.
No.
Having been to an AGM at the EGM on, what night was it?
Was it that an extraordinary general meeting?
Yeah, Tuesday night at Alder Lane.
I was not invited.
They're hoping to have, a listener was going to invite you actually to
come Frank, you should have done.
For a bit of experience.
Yes.
But yeah, I was rushed in the end. So
fine.
Obviously, with the news about me spine, I was like, I don't really want to go here tonight. But
fine. What did they say?
I raced over there. Well, what they're trying to do now is trying to make up the Premier Division up to 16 teams next season.
They struggled with 14, so good luck with that. They're going to have to...
what they're going to do is they're going to sort of
promote from within,
take the pick of the crop, really. Yeah. So there's teams, what they're looking at now is they're looking at teams that are not one-man bands. So they're looking at teams similar to ourselves, where we're a proper organisation with committees and people, working to help the club right across the board.
Okay.
So that sounds good for the Liverpool County Premier League. Yes, obviously, they're under a certain amount of pressure from the FA as well to perform. And it's no fault of theirs that... the clubs that they brought into the division, they fully expected them to continue.
Yeah,
they don't expect them to fold midway.
No,
but
of course not.
It happens every Christmas. It seems to be Liverpool County Premier League.
Drops off.
I don't know what it's. Whatever they're drinking over Christmas, they decide to
sack off the footy.
They sack off the footy,
and that's really bizarre because we talked about the Liverpool as a city with so much dilution in its football, and yet we can't make up a 16 team Premier Division. It's ironic, really, in a way. But maybe it serves up as good fortune for us.
Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? But listen, whatever. I'm checking my scores.
You are?
For the predictions.
Okay.
Anyway, listen, like I say, if you can make it down to the game
3 o'clock
tomorrow, 3 o'clock at the Marine Travel Arena Stadium. A bit of a mouthful there. But listen, we move on to the predictions. On our expert analysis for the... So listen, first of all, we need to look at the results. Now, I'm going to I'm going to go through the results that I've not particularly marked them off, but I'm going to try and waffle on and decide. So, right, so Allscott, Heath, Stockport Georgians. Listen, go on. How many did you score anyway?
I got 18, which was not great by any stretch of the imagination. There was a lot of games that were called off due to waterlogged pitches. I think there was about 12, something like that one, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so there's 16 games that were called off between the 23rd of Jan and the 28th of Jan due to waterlogged pitches. And there were a couple that I was quite, hot-headed in selecting. So one that particularly was Atherton LR. I expected them to draw with Cheadletown. They didn't. LR won 1-0. There was a couple of...
well, the shock results, really, wasn't there? Because we didn't expect Sandbach to beat Telford. Although we knew they were capable of doing it, but they battered them 6-0. So I went for Sandbach, and of course, I went for Telford, and of course Sandbach won the game.
I went for a draw, so I was a little bit closer. But
the other one was Stafford Town, wasn't it? So Stafford Town played New Mills, and New Mills, a resurgent New Mills, they managed to win it. Wolverhampton didn't play, so that
Wolverhampton
was
casuals against Barnton. No, that didn't happen. But then Stockport Town beating Wythenshawe. I suppose after last week when they beat West Didsbury and Chorlton, we probably should have earmarked them a little bit closer for something. But no, two massive results in just 3 days for Stockport. I had them down to draw against West Didsbury, and they won. And then I had the Wythenshawe to beat Stockport, and Stockport won again. So not helpful. But then Colne, it's interesting enough that Trevor Abraham talked about Colne playing AFC Blackpool in front of 42 people. Colne played AFC Blackpool on Tuesday night in front of 124. So, it's clearly some other team from the remote areas of the wilderness that they're turning out 24 people to watch. But then also Litherland Remy played FC St Helens and got a point out of that one. I didn't call that. No. I think we're being too one-sided with some of these. On the whole, yes, there were quite a number of cancellations due to the weather, but even so, I kind of wanted to do plenty better with this than I did.
Yeah, and I'm just going through mine now. What did you get? How many did you get?
How many did I get?
Correct, yeah.
I got 18.
18, I'm going to struggle some. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far. I'm nearly halfway through checking them. But listen, we better look at the fixtures ahead then, haven't we?
This is a reminder to do your homework in the waiting room of A&E.
Yeah.
Right, so... The weekend's games begin on Friday the 30th of January in the Edward Case Cup quarter-finals when Barnton host Darwen at the Creative Hut Stadium.
I'm going for Darwen.
I am also going to go for Darwen. And then we move on to the Saturday games for the Edward Case Cup quarter-finals. There is 3. And McGull are playing Stockport Georgians. I'm going to go
Stockport
for...
Georgians.
I'm saying Stockport Georgians as well.
Nelson Main
Road, assuming that game goes ahead.
Nelson.
I'm Nelson as well. And then Sandbach United versus
an interesting
Runcorn
one. Off the back of a huge win, Sandbach have got a good chance there, but I'm still going to go for Runcorn Town.
I also am going to go for Runcorn Town. For as much as Sandbach have been resurgent, Runcorn have been consistent the entire way along. Yeah. Now then, Saturday 31st of January, the Premier Division of the North West Counties, and we open up with a 2 o'clock kick-off, Cheadletown versus South Liverpool, and I'm going for a draw.
Yeah, listen, I'll go for a draw myself on that one.
Very well.
AFC Liverpool versus Glossop North End. I'm going to go for Glossop North End.
I'm going to go for a draw.
Barnoldswick versus Litherland Remager. Still think Barnoldswick will win that one.
Yeah, only just though.
Bearscough versus West Didsbury and Chorlton. I'm going to go for Bearscough on that one. I think it could be a draw, but Bearscough's home form is really good. So
Bearscough's form is really good.
I'm going for them. Exton Villa versus Abbey Hay. I think Exton Villa will just be enough for a win there.
Yeah, they'll win that.
FC St Helens versus Charnock Richard. I think FC St Helens will come unstuck here. I think it'll be Charnock Richard.
I'm going to say a draw.
Earlham versus City of Liverpool. I'm going for Earlham. Longridge versus Stockport Town. I'm going for Stockport Town.
Stockport Town.
Padiham versus Atherton LR. I'm going for Atherton LR.
Draw.
Pilks versus Chadderton. Chadderton. Wythenshawe versus Prestwich Hayes. I'm going for Wythenshawe. FC Alaman versus Ramsbottom. I'm going for Ramsbottom.
Ramsbottom as well.
So First Division North, Daisy Hill versus Holker Old Boys.
Oh, draw.
I'm going for Holker Old Boys. Fulwood Amateurs versus Bacup Borough. I'm going for Fulwood. No, I'm going for a draw, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to say a draw as well.
Garstang versus Ashton Athletic. Interesting one. Bottom of the division.
Versus second bottom of the division. I'm going Ashton Athletic.
Yeah, I think Ashton Athletic might just win that one. MSB Walton versus Droylsden. I'm going for Droylsden.
Draw.
Squiersgate versus Colne.
Oh.
Well, it's an interesting one. I'd like to see Trevor's team get something out of that. But
and after that 5-1 win over AFC Blackpool, there's confidence is high.
Still going for Squiersgate.
I'm still going for Squiersgate too.
Steeton versus AFC Blackpool. I'm going for Steeton.
Steeton as well, yeah.
First Division South, Alsager versus Shawbury. That's bottom end of the table game, but I think Shawbury Matty Boswell might just sort of
think so too.
Clip them. Camel versus Eccleshall, going for Eccleshall. Hormond versus Cheadle Heath Nomads, going for Cheadle Heath.
The Nomads.
Market Drayton Town versus Wolverhampton Sporting Community. I'm going to go for Market Drayton Town.
Same.
New Mills versus Allscott Heath. I'm going to go for New Mills.
Draw.
Telford versus Asheville. I'm going for Telford.
Ooh, I'm going to go for a draw there.
Wolves Casuals versus Stafford Town. I'm going for Stafford Town.
Stafford Town.
So Monday, the 2nd of February, First Division North, Daisy Hill versus AFC Blackpool. I'm going for AFC Blackpool.
Draw.
Main Road versus Fulwood Amateurs. I'm going for
Fulwood Amateurs.
Fulwood Amateurs. So Tuesday, the 3rd of February, the Premier Division, Atherton 11 versus Padiham. Interesting game.
Very interesting.
Padiham, I think, struggling at the moment a little bit, so I'm going for Atherton LR, although that could easily be a draw.
Literally, they've done exactly what Atherton LR did with Prestwich Hayes a couple of weeks ago, where they're having back-to-back games against each other. First one is at the Ruby Civil Arena in Padiham on the Saturday, and then they're playing each other on the Tuesday night. Madness.
Yeah, so a quick double for them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a draw on both occasions, really.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. Barnsley Town versus Longridge Town. I'm going for Longridge.
Longridge.
Charnock Richard versus Stockport Town. I think Charnock Richard really good at home.
Not too bad at home. Yeah. I'm still going to say Stockport though.
Yeah. Cheadle Town versus Exton, going for Cheadle.
Town.
Earlham versus Abbey Hay, I'm going for Earlham. Prestwich Hayes versus Wythenshawe, I'm going for Wythenshawe, although I don't think that'll be clear cut. No. First Division North, Droylsden versus Nelson. Wow. That's a big game.
That's a big game for either of these two if they're still going to want their automatic promotion ambitions to maintain as realities. I'm going to go for an away win. I think Nelson will do it.
I'm going to go, surprisingly, I'm going to go for Droylsden. McGull versus Colne. I think that's going to be a draw, that.
I can't say McGull on that one.
Ashton Athletic versus Holker Old Boys, going for Holker Old Boys. First Division South Allscott Heath versus Eccleshall, going for Eccleshall. Folleymere versus Runcorn. New Mills versus Wolverhampton Sporting Community, New Mills. Stockport Georgians versus Asheville, Stockport Georgians for me.
Draw.
Wolves Casuals versus Cheadle Heath Nomads, I'm going to go for Cheadle Heath.
Yeah, same.
Cheshire Senior Cup quarter-final, Sandbach versus Vauxhall Motors. I'll go for Vauxhall Motors. TJ Vickers Premier Cup semi-final, Shawbury United versus Telford. I'm going for Telford.
Oh, Matty Boswell going back to his former club.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's an interesting one there.
That's going to be a showdown.
Still think it'll be Telford.
Yeah, me too.
So Premier Division on Wednesday, South Liverpool versus Ramsbottom. I'm going to go for Ramsbottom, but I think South Liverpool will give them a good game. West Didsbury and Chilton versus Chadderton.
Wow,
that's another one, isn't it?
It's a massive game, that one.
I'm going for Chadderton.
I'm going to say a draw.
First Division North, Bacup Borough versus Darwin.
The Bryan Boys, Westview Stadium.
Yeah, you going for Darwin?
Draw.
First Division South, Barnton versus Alsager Town. Barnton.
I've put a ludicrous amount of draws in here. I think I may have just thrown away next week's result.
So listen, you waffle on a little bit while I carry on continuing looking at my results.
All right.
Because it really is important to see where we are, because I was starting to make a little bit of...
You're starting to make a little bit of ground here, right?
Headway, yeah.
Okay,
so
absolutely.
That's gone against me.
So...
yeah, that worked for me. You'll hear a lot of that.
Honestly, we're going to hear a lot of his mumblings on in the background here. So I think what I want to cover is the resurgence of AFC Liverpool at this point. So they started off the season really quite badly and were down sort of 22nd, 23rd. To a point where we did wonder whether they'd continue to be a Premier Division club. But they've actually managed a major resurgence in the last couple of weeks. And we didn't mention it during the results there, but they hosted Chadderton on Saturday the 24th, and we anticipated a bit of a close run thing. I mean, I said Chadderton, I think Frank did as well, and it actually turned into a quite excellent 4-1 win for AFC Liverpool. So we've talked about them as being a team for whom they rely a lot on their attacks to get them any kind of decent consistency there, largely down to the exploits of Elliot Taylor and Caleb Jones. Whereas now it seems like their defence is starting to come good. Now we know that they've got Ben Barnes in goal, obviously a long time Skelmersdale United player. But somehow out of the wilderness, they've now started to piece together some consistent results in defence as well. So they beat Chadderton 4-1 last Saturday. They beat Stockport Town 4-0 the Tuesday night before. Barnoldswick were beaten 7-0 on the 17th of January. Now, they had 4 successive postponements, but prior to that, they beat Little and Remy 3-1. Glossop North End, they drew 1-0. Now, they did have back-to-back defeats against FC Isle of Man and Wythenshawe in the middle of December, conceding 5 goals apiece against them. But what this seems to indicate is a serial turnaround in the capabilities of AFC Liverpool to hold their defensive duties there, and what it has done is seen them rocket up to 16th in the table. Now they're level on points with Charnock Richard in 15th, and there is a bit of a gap between them and South Liverpool and Prestwich Hayes, both of whom are on 41 points. So that's a 5-point deficit. But once you clear those, you're starting to look towards the top 10, and I think that if AFC Liverpool continue as they are with that defensive rigidity and once again relying on Taylor and Jones's instincts for scoring goals, they could seriously make up a bit of a mark on the top 10.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. But listen, I don't want to piddle on your chips.
You've won, haven't you?
Yes, 19 points.
Oh, you got 19.
There you go. You see,
sake.
I'm getting a little bit better. Maybe I'm concentrating a little bit more, but there you go. 19, I'm really, really pleased with that. Listen, it's nice to get a win wherever you can. I'm going to put that away for safekeeping for next week. And I'll keep on top of that as well. Yeah, so listen, really been a long and interesting show. We're going sort of epic proportions with these shows these days, but listen, a lot of people seem to like that. They revisit it. And,
Titanic.
Yeah, they revisit when they can, and you know, some people like Kevin Phelan was listening to the show last week, and he said he was at work, he was on a night shift. And if you remember, we mentioned at the end of the show, if anybody is looking for to use Skelmersdale United Football Club as a platform to springboard themselves to better things in football terms, then Kev Phelan sent a picture of himself in a Skem shirt, and he said, "Listen, I'm available."
Oh.
Yeah, but God love him. He's got a mention on the show, which he deserves anyway. A regular listener to the show and one of the advocates and really
passionate fans.
Passionate says a lot of good things about the show, which is nice. It's great to get good feedback, as we often do.
I'll still never believe that. I still could just think that we're two idiots recording a podcast for our own self-indulgence, and nobody listens to us.
But they do, and that's the reason why we keep on coming back. And we are two idiots, but I think you'd have to be involved with non-league football.
Yes, you do. Although, sorry, Trevor, we didn't mean to call you an idiot. We just think that you probably have to be a bit mad to do it.
You've got to be bonkers. You've got absolutely bonkers. And if you're not bonkers, it won't take long before you do become bonkers. But listen, finishing the show, what have you learned in the last week?
To be a chairman, you don't necessarily have to have deep pockets at all. You can just be an average everyman with a natural instinct, being able to work hard, building bridges within the community, and seeing a non-league football club as being a passion project and not a vanity project.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You hit the nail on the head in terms of ambition. We've said it week in, week out, that sometimes you've got to realise what your level is, and if you don't, you can come tumbling down very, very quickly. I've looked at a lot of the clubs there. We've talked about Prescot Cables. Is it good for them to get promoted again? Yes, it is from a supporter's point of view, but can you maintain that level if you go further up? Bury Football Club, now that we have to remember now, Bury Football Club, as big as it was and as big as it has been in the past, that is all part of their history. You cannot demand, just purely based on your history, that you're going to get back to the good old days and back into the Football League and struggling. It was a struggling team in the Football League for many a year. So what have I learned? Don't try to change things too much, too drastically. Invest in what you've got and the people that are loyal to you, and that should help you go a long way.
Well said.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we'll leave the final dulcet tones to AJ. The final words. Sorry, it doesn't make any sense.
What are you saying?
I don't you've just blown me speaking now.
You're
but
not
that's okay.
gonna
Listen, I'll start again. Listen, we'll leave those final words to the dulcet tones of AJ. But
Because you say it every week. How have you lost it this time?
I don't be well straight.
It's like the McDonald's man forgetting to say I'm loving it. He's got his words mixed up. Yeah. Right, you've been listening to the Speaking Frankly football show with idiot number 1, AJ Viget, and idiot number 2, Mr. Frank Hughes. This podcast is available on most streaming services, wherever you get your podcasts, including Amazon Music and Spotify. Please rate and review the show, as we do thrive off hearing your feedback. Please also subscribe so that you can find out firsthand when a new episode of the show has been released. We're also available on social media sites, most prevalently X and Facebook, under the banner term Speaking Frankly Football Show. And so from me and Frank, we will see you next week for another installation of the show. Until then, goodbye for now.